How are you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for the morning. You look sharp. Nothing said. Yeah. It's just thank you.
We'll call the meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the City of Callaway Board of Commissioners. It is Tuesday, July 8th, 2025, at 6 p.m. If you will stand with me, please. Commissioner Pelletier will give the invocation. Commissioner Ayers, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Lord, we thank you for allowing us to gather today, and we pray you guide us in making decisions for our citizens and city. We thank you for our first responders, and we ask that you bless them and their families. Please keep them safe and let them go home at the end of their shift. We thank you for our citizens and our employees that make Callaway a great place to be, and pray you bless them with peace and success. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, please do a roll call.
Commissioner Davis?
Here.
Commissioner Gray?
Here.
Commissioner Pelletier?
Here.
Commissioner Ayers?
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Henderson?
Here. Okay, we have a few presentations tonight. First, we have Deputy Kim McKenzie from the Lake County Sheriff's Office with our June statistics.
Good evening. In June, our calls for service were 957. Miles patrolled, 24,285. 37 arrests, 134 traffic stops, 86 citations, and 41 traffic accidents.
You're looking this way, so you know I'm gonna ask a question.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the questions.
Last meeting, we talked about, citations. And, one of the things that I was concerned about, it seemed like that maybe one or two officers are writing tickets, others are not. Has that been resolved? I know you want to talk to the captain. So.
No, sir, I have talked to the captain in the past. You said you were gonna come talk to him.
Oh, okay.
That's how that went. I told you I'd be glad to go with you.
And I understand that, actually I saw other officers, another officer on the fourth, actually writing a ticket on one of the roads, so I kind of
It's
assumed
not
that
that they
maybe.
don't ever write tickets, it's just a matter that I think that, you know, we can both agree that we might do a little better in that area.
All right.
But if you want the captain to talk to him, I've talked to him, he's not gonna do any good for me to talk to him. If you wanna talk to him,
I'll be happy.
so let's set up a meeting, and if you want me to go with you, I'll be happy.
All right. Thank you.
Commissioner, I think too, another thing that we probably should be looking at when we talk about citations is that our main, deputy, in my mind, should be an unmarked car.
And a lot of the times she is, I know she had told me
I
her
get
car was in the
Citizens
shop.
call me all the time, well, no wonder she's not getting citations, she's in a marked car, she was unmarked. In my mind, you know, I think probably, you're gonna go talk to the good captain, we should have that discussion too.
Well,
Maybe
also
that needs to
where they're actually set up, for example, on Beulah.
Mhm.
Very honest, if they get over there and set up on Patterson Park or some of the other areas, I mean, you can be seen by the time you turn on
Yeah,
Beulah
I know.
from Cherry.
But if it's unmarked car, they don't know.
In many cases, I mean, you know where I live, and I can hear them. So, y'all, have my permission to come down Winona and just listen. And when you hear them, then you can,
Understood. I have pretty good luck, even though mine's marked, I don't have a lot more on top. I do run the moving radar and that is pretty successful.
you know,
I don't have much trouble catching people with that. But the sitting around in a marked patrol car and then knowing you're there, that doesn't, it works, but it's just not as effective.
well, the whole idea is safety. And that's what, we're not interested in the money or the tickets per se, we're interested in
Yeah.
Safety, yeah.
calming them down
Yeah.
without having to put a calming device in.
The speed isn't even always the big issue. If you drive up and down Timber Parkway, it's the weaving in and out of traffic, not signaling within the 100 feet of change in lanes. I mean, it's ongoing and ongoing. It's aggressive traffic is what it is. And even working that, it turns into pursuits and everything else, but, cause they have other underlying things going on once you get them stopped.
I agree.
But it does, speeding is not the only thing that needs to be addressed, it's just traffic citations in general, there needs to be more of an issue. How that needs to be done, I mean, we have an issue with traffic over here, it being unsafe, we have that throughout the whole county. But I work over here, I can tell you I do what I can over here, but I think we probably can do a better job.
Well, in my time at the end of the meeting, I'll be bringing up a little bit more detail concerning the parks. But, appreciate all the assistance and attention that we can get on the parks, because we're having problems.
I've been patrolling down there, but I have not seen anything. We can talk about that a little more if you want me to talk about that then. But I know I've made some suggestions that we put cameras up down there, and even prior to doing that, go ahead and put down where recording. Well, you can't record in the bathrooms, but you can record what's going on, who's coming and going down there, and then you can get some kind of a timeline on when damage is being done and things of that nature.
Well, we're definitely on board of discussing that and
Yeah.
taking care of that particular issue.
I had already spoke with Tim about that and told him that we really would like that to happen. And told him we really would like those signs to go ahead and get put up, and that's been a while back. And I thought he was in agreement on doing that.
Well, and the citizens have a device no matter what. I mean, they're all one arm to one hand. And, as soon as some of the citizens see anything going on down there, they need to report it. They need to call the sheriff's department. Don't call me, don't call, just call the sheriff's department, because everything we're seeing going on down there is very honestly, very illegal.
Right.
So, and the destruction, et cetera.
Absolutely.
I'll talk later, so.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else have anything for Deputy? Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Wilkins, by any chance from the audience? I don't think so. Well, they are the winner this month of our Yard of the Month. It's William and Haley Wilkins. I don't think they were able to attend tonight, but we will get their certificate to them and the sign that they get to put in the yard. I think Public Works or somebody takes care of that. Okay. So we appreciate it. Y'all, be entering your yards for Yard of the Month. Okay, next, we have a couple of proclamations. The first one is, whereas on July 26, 1990, President George H.W. Bush signed into law the Americans with Disabilities Act to ensure the civil rights of people with disabilities. And whereas the ADA has expanded opportunities for Americans with disabilities by reducing barriers and changing perceptions and increasing full participation in community life. And whereas we, as the City of Callaway Commissioners, established a clear and comprehensive national mandate for the elimination of discrimination against individuals with disabilities. And whereas we celebrate and recognize the progress that has been made by reaffirming the principles of equality and inclusion and recommitting our efforts to reach full ADA compliance. Now therefore, be it proclaimed, I, Pam Henderson, Mayor of the City of Callaway, Florida, affirms to continue to work toward full compliance on the 35th anniversary. Okay, so that is our proclamation for ADA. And we have another proclamation, which this one's very timely. I wanted to make some comments about, what a great job our leisure services crew always does with all our city events. They did another outstanding job for 4th of July. And we have a proclamation, whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the City of Callaway. And whereas Parks and Recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks. And whereas Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Parks and Recreation is a leading provider of healthy meals, nutrition services, and education. And whereas Park and Recreation programming and education activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development. And whereas Parks and Recreation increases a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas Parks and Recreation is fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and whereas Parks and Recreation is essential and adaptable infrastructure that makes our communities resilient in the face of natural disasters and climate change. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, now therefore I, Pam Henderson, Mayor of the City of Callaway, Florida, do hereby proclaim the month of July to be Parks and Recreation Month. So, I did, yes.
Congratulations on reading all that.
It's a good time to recognize y'all, because I know you just had a great event, and we've got others coming up before we know it. So, thank you for all y'all do. Now we'll go on to the mayor's instructions. Do we have any additions or deletions?
No.
Nothing. And for anybody that's not familiar with our public participation, we allow public participation on each of our agenda items. So if you want to speak on any particular agenda item when I call for public participation and you are recognized, come to the podium, state your name and address for the record if you so choose. And then your 3 minutes will start on the agenda item. Like I said, you can speak on each one if you want to. And then at the end of the meeting, we had time for non-agenda item public participation, which basically the same process. Once you recognize, come up, state your name and address if you want to, and then you have 3 minutes to talk about a non-agenda item. So with all that being said, we will move on to the approval of the minutes. We've got the minutes of the June 24th, 2025 regular meeting. Did anybody have any changes, comments, questions on those minutes? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve June 24 minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. agenda. Agenda item 1, certification of maximum ad valorem tax millage rate for fiscal year 25-26. City manager.
Each year, the city is required to certify the maximum millage rate with property appraiser. The maximum millage rate is set as a benchmark, and the commission will have the ability to lower but not exceed the maximum millage rate established. We are establishing the maximum millage rate. Currently, our millage rate is 2.75. We will shoot for 2.75 in budget. We generally hit our goals, but staff has recommended a max millage rate of 2.99, unless y'all will give us more.
Anybody have any comment?
Well, as you all know, I don't like, is anybody here up on this IS is gonna vote for a tax increase this year? If not, why are we playing with this? Just set it at 275 and be done with it.
I was gonna ask the question of, why are we all requesting, we haven't seen the budget yet, but why are y'all requesting that maybe we should look at the 2.99?
Cause it's less than 3.0. We're so
Well,
early,
it's-
the truth of the matter is, we're so early in the budget, we're still waiting on numbers to come in, so we can even establish a budget. And, you know, we've set up here at times, and people have got it and said, set it at 4, set it at 3. I'm almost sure we'll be able to do it at 2.75.
That's
Nobody
what I
wants to see a tax increase, but we also don't have the numbers. So it's just a benchmark, and, you know, we don't wanna see increases either. That's not, I don't think we've ever came up here and really said that we have to have it. And it always comes down to just whatever the attitude of the commission is at the time, but I can't get you a budget that I don't have before this is due. So it's always just a guess.
Well, until last week, we weren't sure really what we could potentially do because of what was going on in the state. The state was delayed in coming up with their budget. Here again, they were looking at eliminating property tax and all kinds of stuff, which would be totally an issue that we didn't want to face. But, I agree with you that, I mean, every time,
We're gonna
This
get a
has been
bunch of
going
phone
on for
calls.
years.
We play this game, been playing this game for 10 years, and I just think that nobody up here is gonna vote, I'm not gonna vote for a tax increase. I don't know, we've got 3 of us up here that won't, but why don't we just set it at 275, and if you can't meet the budget, then we need to doge it.
no. I agree with both statements,
Yeah.
Well, let's set it 2.7 and go,
2.75.
you know, give our taxpayers a break if we
Yeah.
can. I know it's minuscule, but at least they know we're thinking about them. We have a lot of retirees in Callaway that are on fixed incomes, and every little bit helps.
Well, we gotta keep in mind that here again, this is general fund money. And out of the general fund, we pave roads, and out of the general fund, we,
No,
pay out parks
yeah.
and all this. And it's,
Fire and police.
the fire and the police and the sheriff's department. So,
And Commissioner, I don't think we need to worry about property tax this year, because it's gonna be recommended, that, I can't.
Referendum.
There you are. Can't get it out of my mouth tonight. So until the people vote, which if it gets on there, you know they're gonna vote. And then we're gonna have to start looking at what we're gonna do to make up for the 2.5 million or whatever that amount is every year. 2.4.
but it's gonna be interesting. I'd like to see, you know, when we see the budget, I'm, well, fairly certain we're gonna be getting into reserves. So it's, because,
How do you know we're getting into reserves when we haven't even seen a budget yet?
well,
Who's
because
telling you
I know
that?
the sheriff's department goes up, I know that all the,
But the sheriff's
The
department has
salary's
nothing
gonna
to
be
do with
going up.
reserves. That comes out of operating.
but the bottom line
Yeah.
is, I agree with 2.75.
All right, thank you.
We'll fight,
We've stayed under the
We'll fight
budget
those other
for
fights
3
later.
years. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like we're busting the budget every year.
No.
We're actually saving money. which is great, because the more money we save, the more interest we get on portions of it, and it helps us out. So it's a synergistic effect that's really good for us.
Well, keep in mind, we're one of the, in fact, we may be the, I don't know if we're the only one, but I think we're just about the only one that is keeping our 17% reserve plus other. So, we'll see. We got budget coming up.
Yeah. So this is just a discussion, right?
No, we're
No,
still
that's
trim
not-
millage.
Yeah, it's not a discounting from the trim notice.
Yeah.
So it's just set at the trim, you can go lower, you can't go higher.
So one question is, since if we set it to 299, is this a protection for later? Let's say we get hit, God forbid, with a hurricane?
Between now and.
Do we get to?
Between now and
go
September.
299?
No.
Yeah. Yeah,
Between that, yeah,
Oh, between now
and.
but that's not a budget adoption, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's just, once our numbers come in and we can see, if we can do it at 2.75, we're gonna do it at
Yes, ma'am.
2.75, but, you know, we don't know what we're gonna get from the state and stuff, that if there's a big shortfall, we would have the option of going to the 299.
okay. So I think we should err on the side of, caution and do the 299.
I don't have a problem with doing that, just because we don't know, because the state cuts funding.
So we're looking at, two of y'all are thinking 2.99?
For the max,
Just as a max.
Well, see, now the other thing is, and we're looking at perception. And this is what, Commissioner Pelletier and myself, you know, dealing with as a, sitting out there or up here, is we say 2.99, and of course, it'll be on the news tonight that Callaway is raising their, because how many people do, you know, 15, 17, thousand people in Callaway, how many realize that? And we tell them, but I just assume meet the,
You know, we all have a budget at home, and I wish I could get that tax dollar to increase my budget, but I don't. So in my mind, you know, if we can't meet the 275, then we need to doge the budget.
Well, I'm just thinking, you know, just like at the 4th of July celebration, what were we all telling the city manager? 250th birthday, we need to put more money in the budget. Well, there may not be money there to put in the budget for 4th of July.
But, Mayor, as you all know, they didn't discuss with us, but if you looked at the final end of the year, we ended up with a surplus, as we do every year. Okay? So, we end up with a surplus every year, which is great. Okay? But, you know, again, I'm for the 275 period.
well, we can't take credit for the surplus,
No.
because that's,
I'm not taking
that's the
credit.
city manager and
Just
that
saying
team.
that the mayor is concerned about extra. Every year we end up with surplus. And it's just a matter of priorities, if we wanna do more for the 4th of July, and we wanna do less in a certain particular area, you know, so. In my mind, again, you know, we played with this trim notice for 10 years now, and we get all the calls, and it'll hit the media, and I, for one, and that's why I said, there's three of us that are not gonna vote for budget increase, why are we not setting it for 275?
Were we 299 last year?
No.
275.
We probably
No,
did
I
the
mean,
max.
Probably the trim. Yeah.
It was 299.
Trim notice, I think was
Yeah,
299.
and I remember the news, and it looked like the other cities,
Yeah.
you know, even the, education department and their two levies on that. They kept them the same, or even went down in some cases, and all that business, and we're sticking out there like a sore thumb is, you know, saying we're raising it, which we didn't,
No,
and we weren't planning to.
this is perception.
So I'd rather have the perception that Callaway is continuing to be responsible.
But at the same time, I wanna, you're the lowest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It
So
must be over 299.
if they're at 5 and they go, oh, we're gonna go down to 4.5, they still way higher than us even.
Oh, yeah.
A quarter percent.
And that's my thought, you know. I don't know.
Just for the general public to understand that, the difference in revenues between 275 and 299 is $232,000. That's all it brings in extra. We'll make it work.
I
whatever
heard
you
from,
wanna do. That's our goal.
Commissioner Davis, haven't heard from you.
I mean, I'm not for raising it, but I know from years doing a budget, we'd rather go high and then trim the fat in the meetings.
But then what's the purpose of going to a 299? You're saying you're not
I
gonna
don't
increase,
know what kind of.
what you're saying is you're not gonna increase the tax, you're not gonna vote for an increase in taxes. And so we're gonna trim the budget, so let's just say this is what they're working with, and be done with it. But that's my opinion, I'm not trying to change what to do.
Well, the way things are going, this may be, very honestly, the last year we can do with 2.75. Because we still have money coming in from various grants and all that, and it looks like a lot of those grants are gonna be drying out, so. We're paving our roads mostly now on grants. And,
And I will be the first one to tell you, the only way to get grant money is gonna be through state appropriations.
yeah,
That's what got doved at the state.
Right.
yeah,
There is no money flowing down from the state anymore. They didn't take money away from their fat, they took it away from what they gave to the cities. And when they start talking about cutting ad valorem and property taxes, they're not cutting it from themselves.
No,
They're cutting it from us.
right.
and they cut it from the upstate, they didn't necessarily cut it from the downstate,
Yeah.
so. Like I say, I think we can do the 2.75 this year, but, just a heads up, maybe the last year or so.
If we even have that alone next year.
Right, we might not even have Avalon next year.
No.
I think what you're gonna see with that is, you go and you look at South Florida, they'll have to phase it in over 5 or 10 years. And if they start phasing it in,
They're 10 mils right away, 10 mils, 10 mils, 10 mils.
yeah, they're all 10 mils down there, so you know they're gonna go a year to 8, a year to 6, a year to 5, may not affect us for 5 years.
Does anybody up here have anything else to say? I'll open it up. Anybody in the audience want to talk about property tax? Yes, sir?
Don Henry, 431 Tango Pass. I think you raise a 2.9, cause nothing's getting done in the city how much. Everybody complains about the trash not being picked up, cause they wanna pick this wood up or that wood. They don't, about the roads, y'all complain about the roads, you want the roads repaired, where you gonna get the money from? You ain't got nothing, didn't do nothing last year, Bobby. Sure ain't got nothing done. Still lost prices on the books, but they ain't taking them done. I think you should raise it up to 2.99. And then walk down to 2.7. To the budget. That's my opinion. I'm not running for election.
Well, I hate to tell you that money for trash does not come out of, it comes out of the enterprise fund.
Yeah.
So that has nothing to do with our taxes.
Anybody else want to? Yes, sir?
Don Shaner, Big 711 Kevin Circle. I like the 2.75, I'm with Mr. Pelletier, Commissioner Pelletier. I think you can get tough if you have to. In my life, I've had to get tough a lot of times. And I'm on a pretty fixed income, and it's really getting tough. So, you know, if you've got a bigger piece of cake, well, you're gonna work toward that bigger piece of cake. So, I say hang in there and just get tough. You know, if you got extra, you're gonna spend it. And I mean, it's ridiculous. I hope they do away with property tax. I'm tired of my property being on the line. You know, if I can't pay the taxes, well, you know, I moved out, find a refrigerator box to live in or something. So, you know, I don't like my property being online for taxes. I'd rather pay something else, more. If I can't pay it, well, you know, at least you got a place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shannon. Anybody else? No one? No, gentlemen, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, we set the trim rate at 2.75.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion in a second. Any more discussion? Okay, there's no further discussion. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? No, motion carries. So the 7.75. We have to look up for. We have to look up for.
We'll get it 2.6.
I know.
We always do.
Okay. Now everyone.
Now, Mr. Shaner, I'm gonna tell you though, every year they've gave us a lot more, we have always come in right. We don't eat the bigger piece of cake, we don't like to get fat, we
I
want to
see
stay
some
skinny.
parts you could do without.
No temptation.
Okay, so agenda item number 2, discussion utility billing shut-off dates. Commissioner Pelletier, did you want to start since you put this on?
Yeah, well, I want to discuss a lot more than just the dates, but, you know, I had a discussion, you know, we're putting the system in, we started discussing this 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and we're finally, I don't know where we're at, city manager with the towers, are we close to coming up with that?
Install in the next 2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay. And of course,
That's the hardware install.
that's hardware.
Monopoles are in, power's in, we're ready to go,
Right.
they're gonna come in, do the installs, and then we'll start.
And
doing
then we got employee training.
We're already started that.
Okay. So, as you all know, Mayor, our billing, we're 60 days out, our delinquents are still, they're a lot better than they were 10 years ago, but still, we're losing money every year. Are we ever gonna get to the point where we don't? Probably not. City attorney, could we, use, go out and do, when we have new customers or new accounts, go out and check their, credit. And then if they have a low credit, have a higher, I said, for later on, the commission has said, you know, this is, as I come back to the commission, I just want to discuss it today. If let's say they have a 1.7, 170 credit score, could we charge those people a higher, bonus, a higher deposit?
Yeah, higher deposit, you know, I think some power companies do that, I mean, you'd have to set up, you know, a policy and do
Right,
it,
we'd have to,
do it for everybody.
we'd have to
that
come
comes
back with
online.
a policy, right?
But, you know, with that, you have all the privacy notices, and compliance issues there, so you're gonna have to train or get somebody on staff who knows how to do that and comply with all the, you know, fair credit reporting. It's a whole other ball of regulation to
Right.
comply with. But are you allowed to do it? Yeah.
Well, I was just pointing that out, because we all know where our problems are. The problems are with our renters, and not necessarily our property owners. And maybe this would solve some of our problems.
But you know what? You know, we get this every month, and I look month, we had this last month, and we only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Of those 10, 1, 2, 3, 4 have homestead exemptions, so it would appear that 4 of those are not renters.
Right, I know, that's what I'm saying, is that we're not pursuing, we're not pursuing it.
I think we need to do something, because if it's a property owner, you have a little more leeway than you do with
Thank
a
you.
renter,
Right.
correct?
We had that
And then if we
discussion.
find out they're a renter,
then there's an issue because they're.
Then what, we turn them into the property appraisers? For not being a homestead?
Well, we keep on ignoring it.
Lying about their homestead.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
I also wanna just say this much, you know, these, what they're talking about is the collections report. A lot of these that you see on here, that's not all water consumption, it's probably only about half. Because these people that are coming in, they're gonna get a 15% lead fee, they're getting a $50 reconnect fee. We have people that go out and wanna turn their water back on, they get $100 tampering fees and all this stuff that goes on there. So there's a lot of fees that is involved whenever we're talking about, you know, these numbers as opposed to it just being, oh, they're straight skim water. You know, by the time it gets to this and we're shutting them off and all this is happening, they've been hit with lots of fees.
Yeah, but those fees have nothing to do with that delinquent report, those are delinquent accounts.
They're delinquent accounts, but those amounts that we're turning over to collections contain all those fees.
They include the delinquent.
They
Right,
all
includes
those
it,
fees.
yeah, I understand, but at the end of the day, you know, the possibility of us getting that money is like slim to none anyhow. It's never changed, it's not gonna change, it's such a small amount, and until we can get all the municipalities to talk to each other, and so we can all deny somebody that didn't pay in Parker, in Callaway. City attorney had discussed that last meeting. I don't know if that's feasible or not, if we can get to that point. Cause they'll go from here to Parker to Panama City to wherever, you know, a lot of them don't leave this area. But that was one discussion that, you know, I don't know what anybody else on this commission feels like, but we're gonna have this new technology, but yet our existing meters only give us half the capacity, the capability of being able to use the new technology we have. I kinda asked the city manager, why aren't we buying these new meters? And when we're having new connections, we got about 1,000 homes coming in just on this side of the bridge. Why, well, we should have those developers buy those meters versus paying having our taxpayers out here buy them. Yes, it's $500, but if we change the procedure, whatever procedure we have that time, those developers are gonna have to abide by it. And
So
we
I
will
did,
start.
I wanna let you know, I really did some research in on this, and so I talked to, Core Main, who's our supplier of these iPearls.
Right.
And there are some cities that do choose to go ahead and go that route. He said there's not a lot, but there are some, and so looking forward to that, you know, we've pulled everything, we're trying to look to see what the costs are gonna be. We can put that in, we'll have to bring it back to y'all so that y'all can approve, the charges and everything. Conceptually, I don't have a firm on this. All new meters that we have now, we will be able to return for credit to get the new ones in.
Right.
And we can go forward with that. And then all future meter change-outs that we have do two things. Now, these meters had a 20-year life on them. So there's a battery inside of that.
Right.
And we did have some faulty batteries there for a while that they changed out, and all that was taken care of. We're on like year 13.
Yeah, but I'm talking about new connects, you know, you've got about 1,000 homes on this side of the bridge, and probably more when St. Joe keeps on going.
Yeah, well,
And why aren't we buying those now?
Well, what I'm describing is, whenever one, we have to change the utility billing manual.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but that's why I wanna have this discussion,
Yeah, and so
see if
we
everybody
can
agrees,
do
and then we
that,
can change
and
it,
then-
bring it forward.
You know, and then we'll have to look at our budget and see where we're at on how many more meters we can purchase. We'll switch all of our POs over. We'll return the current meters that we have and get them. So that's kinda like phase one would be from this point forward. Phase two is gonna be changing out the city. Now, like I said, we're in year 13, we're gonna start seeing battery depletion, and we're gonna start seeing some of our old meters go out. And so we can look at putting a plan in to start switching out over the next 5 years to get the rest of the city converted over.
City manager, I guess I'm confused, are we not getting paid for those meters when we put them in?
It is a pass-through.
It's a pass-through, so why are we worried about it? Why are you worried about, if we're gonna buy additional meters at $500, we're gonna get that money back.
Not all the meters are gonna be pass-throughs.
Why not?
Well, because we have to have meters for our meter change-outs.
I understand that, but again,
And so-
you're going off what I'm talking about. I'm talking about new connections, new homes coming on, the
Well,
system.
we don't buy meters and say, these are for new connections and these are for everything else. We buy meters as a whole. So if we switch one, we're going to end up switching everything. And I'm actually talking to them about potentially, if we start pulling meters and they're good meters, that they may even be able to give us credit for those meters if we traded those back in. I'm giving you a total picture.
Right.
Not just for new, but, I mean, we can look at the new connections, if that's the way the commissioner
Well,
wants.
it doesn't make
commissioner
any
wants to go
sense
by
to
the
me,
next.
city manager, we should be doing it, we don't have to look at it. As a commission, why should we have our citizens pay that $500,000 is what we're talking about? $500 at 1,000 meters is $500,000. Okay, $500,000. That we would bill these people out there when we can pass that on to the developer. Makes no sense to me.
We wouldn't charge it to
We
these people,
wouldn't.
we're gonna pass it.
If we don't start buying them and have the new bills pay for them,
Yeah.
yeah, and he's saying we're gonna look at it, we don't need to be looking at it, we should be doing it.
It's gonna take a change in the utility billing manual.
Right, but let's just change it and go forward. That's my opinion. I don't know why, I understand what you're saying there, but if we wait and don't do it, and as these new homes come on, we're gonna end up having to pay for it.
All the city manager needs direction, and I agree with what you're saying.
Right.
Agree with the new developments
Right.
coming in, it's additional $250 they're gonna be charging whoever buys that $300,000 home and $250,000 home. So, but we do have to buy those meters, it's passed through. When we put it into those homes, they give us the money then. The contractor gives us the money, not whoever buys the house. Now, as far as when meters fail, we can put these meters in.
Right.
So we can at least plan on that, but you know, how many meters fail every year, this kind of thing. So, number one, make sure that, we have the new meters in for the new developments, new housing, and replacement meters. We can put these in, so we still buy the same meters, but we don't have to buy 1,000 of them for replacements. We buy whatever we need. You know, what is a normal replacement during the year?
Yeah, it'd be nice to get some numbers, I'd like to know what kind of numbers we're talking about on replacements and the new, meters we're gonna provide, and then they reimburse us, of course. But the other meters, in the meantime, the ones we're gonna swap out, what the number is on that.
We don't know.
Well, we're not gonna swap any of them out that are not necessary to swap.
It
If
sounded
it's,
like
if it's a
was
failing
going-
meter, we put the new ones in.
Okay.
If it's not a failing meter, 20 years from now, if it doesn't fail,
Right.
it's that same
If
meter.
that's the direction we're, and I think that's the way we should go
Right.
too, but initially, it was said otherwise, that we're gonna replace some of these meters.
We're gonna have to be
trade in their
prepared
meters.
Right.
As the batteries fail.
And that's understandable.
Right.
And we'll also be looking at delinquent.
I wasn't worried about replacement, I'm worried about new construction. You know, we can get our money now, why should we wait?
We have all that.
Well, we're not gonna be able to get money in advance.
No,
No,
but it's a pass-through account. You know, we're gonna get our money back.
we'll get the money back.
If we put the old meters in there, and later on we wanna switch, we're gonna have to pay for that. out of our funds.
Well, instead of whatever the new meter, that same meter would have been 5 or 10 years from now.
Right.
You know, it may be the same thing as what these meters will
As
cost.
long as it doesn't become obsolete, right? That would be
In my mind, we should not have any new installs, but it should be all new meters.
Yeah, now, the meters we have already purchased, if we can turn those back in, then that's great, like the city manager's talking about, that's great. So, starting tomorrow, any bad meters, any bad ones, then,
Let me get some good meters in here first.
so what?
Let me get some good meters first. I gotta send them all back.
Okay. But whenever it's appropriate.
Right. Well, getting them is gonna be another issue, cause we've been having issues getting meters period, right?
No, we're fine.
We're fine now? Okay. But the reason why I wanted to discuss it is that I think we need to give the city manager direction that all new connects should be the new meters. And because it's a pass-through account, and because in reality, I think I figured out to change out the entire city, we're at 3.7 million, probably be more than that in the long run. But I'm not talking about changing out the whole city. I'm just talking about new connects. We should be using new meters because we're getting reimbursed for that.
And do we have a nomenclature for the new meter? And who makes it?
Call it the Ally meter.
Ally?
Ally, A-L-L-Y.
And then we'll have full capability of our software.
Well, now perhaps we need to tell everybody one of the reasons that we're interested in a new meter, and the reason we're interested in the new meter, that very honestly, from our computers, we can cut that meter off with the new
Right.
meters.
The meter
So instead of going out and cutting off, mechanically cutting it off like we have to do now, we can actually do it
There
from the office.
are three major features for the new meters. We have the on and off, there are actually three settings. It's on, it's off, and it's trickle.
Yeah.
There's a trickle feature, which means if you want a glass of water, you can get a glass of water to take your medication, but you're not gonna be able to take a shower.
Right.
It also will give us pressures across the whole entire system. We'll be able to read pressures across the whole entire city at each person's house. And the third, and it also reads temperature. It reads temperature.
Well, like all the other utilities, nobody comes to the house, turn it on and off anymore. All from the keyboard.
But that can only be done with the new equipment versus old.
Okay, now that was only one item on this subject.
Right. Now, billing days. Have you talked to staff as to how we're gonna be able to reduce,
Well,
get out of this 60-day
currently what I'd
cycle?
like to do is I would like to just calm this subject down. We need to get the new system in, get our people trained, get everything done, and then we can look at this. I will tell you that on the 15th, which we talked about shortening it down there, we had over 700. On the 16th, the day after they're due, we do what's called a robocall. We call everyone that has not paid their bill and say, guess what? You got that, if we have the right phone number. We had 700
Right.
this past 15.
That wait till the
So-
25th.
They'll wait, yeah, sometime up until the 25th. Now, talking with staff, I'm not opposed to this, we would just like to get the new system in, let us get up to speed and running, because we just don't know what to expect when we switch over,
Right.
there's still that delta, we just don't know.
Right, right.
We know what the computer models say, we know what the system's supposed to do, we don't know if we're gonna have to tweak, so we would prefer to just kind of, I'm not gonna say table this discussion, but just let us bring it back after the new system gets in and we're up and going on it.
I didn't wanna spend another 2 years of giving you direction as to where we wanna go. In other words, it's taken us 2 years to get where we're at now. I don't wanna wait another 2 years to go forward what we need to do. That's what I'm saying.
System installs in the next 3 weeks, and then we'll be up and we'll probably run for the first 2 months. We'll probably run dual systems. We'll take an overhead reading,
Right.
and we'll do a drive-by at the same time.
Right.
And then we'll do that for a couple of months to just check the files and make sure, see how they're compatible. And they're gonna be assisting us with that, with the files. And then after that, we can start looking at tweaking and what we need to do. So, that's our goal. Our goal is to have this thing done before this fiscal year's over, but have the system up and running as quickly as possible. So I'd say probably the next 60 days, we'll be running pretty strong. But if you want to go ahead and look at the meters, if this is y'all's direction, then we will, with the utility billing manual, we'll get all the things done, and at the next meeting, we'll have it back, right?
Does it have a fixed price on meters, or do we just Julie passed to say cost of meter plus connection,
We do a fixed cost of utility bill.
the actual dollar amount.
With our dollar amount.
Change it.
And
Well,
see-
so we're agreed on,
You-
the meters.
Yeah, I think so.
now, as far as changing the dates, anything, we're gonna hold off on that.
Well, let me tell you, I agree with city manager, that since we're in the process of changing software, when we do, it's gonna be absolute, you know what happened? Well, Mayor understands this, but when we decided back in the day, 9 years ago, to really start turning people off, it was chaos. And if we decide that the 15th is the dead day, we better get a sheriff down here in that office.
No. Well, see, actually,
I'm the sheriff.
Yeah, you may be the sheriff, but you don't have a what's-it with you.
with the figures that we know
Right.
on this last cycle, 700 were late.
Yeah, I know.
And then we had approximately 200 that we ended up with cutoffs, round numbers, ended up cutting off.
Yeah,
And that was the-
which
that
is
was the
good
20
compared to where we were.
That was the
9 years ago.
22.
But
Now-
still, you have 700 people that are gonna be more than upset, because for now, all these years, you know, we've been saying, okay, you got till the 25th, and on the 26th, we're gonna turn you on.
Well, this is gonna be a huge customer relations.
It's a
push.
phase in.
We will end up doing robocalls to everyone on the
Right.
system, letting them know what's gonna happen. We may have to do a phase in where
Right.
1 month we say, on the 16th, we say, your water should be shut off today. And, you know, we just have to change that nomenclature. We're gonna have to do a huge push. Probably gonna have to do a mailing out to everybody along with the news flashes and everything else. And heck, we'll put banners up all over the city.
But I might have to say to you, Commissioner, is that by changing the due date, doesn't affect that 60-day cycle. And I think our goal is to go back on that 60-day
Right.
versus, and by changing the due date, that's not gonna do anything to that
Yeah.
60-day
As a
cycle.
matter of fact, I'm against changing the due date for several reasons.
Yeah.
Number one, what we just talked about, if we're looking at cutting off people, you know, 700 people, you know, by the current statistics, cutting off 700 people, I'm gonna go live in a sheriff's department or something, because, now, going back to the discussion that we had at the last meeting, which, whole focus is that we're having to write off all these bad debts, et cetera, or we turn them over to collection. Doing a little bit more research, and actually, pretty honestly, it was right in front of me all the time. Here's my bill. And I don't know how many people read the back side of it, but the back side covers some things that we can do that actually I was told at the last meeting we couldn't do. What I was asking for was potentially increasing the deposit on bad actors. And what I understand at that meeting, no, we can't really segregate those out. Well, yes, we can, and they're notified of that, because on the back of the bill, it says if services are disconnected, we have the option to increase additional deposits before we turn that service back on.
City manager, how often do we do that?
We are not currently doing that.
We're not doing it.
Now,
But we can start doing that this particular time, because they've already received the notice.
there is some nomenclature that we looked at this today. There's some nomenclature that me and Lisa, we went over, we covered it. We're gonna have to get with Kevin, and we're probably gonna make that change when we change the utility billing stuff, because there's some very bad language.
It's just bad numbers, but again, we know they're there, and we're not doing anything about it. So then, those people are the ones that walk out, and then these people out here end up paying for it.
Well, some of the nomenclature and all that he may be talking about, because as we often do in politics, we extract certain things out. So what I extracted out of this was that, if the service is disconnected, additional deposits may be required. Well, of course, course, there's a little language prior to that that says if the deposit does not meet the minimum required deposit of $250. So if they're, you know, we have a shut off and their account is not over $250,
But we can always change
by
that
this
with
limit
language.
feature, we cannot necessarily charge them more.
Exactly.
Could be
That's
not
what I'm
charged
saying, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
The language is very poor because it says you can charge them more, but I think kind of the way up to the maximum of $250. So that'd be if somebody had $100 deposit back, 10 years ago, and they come in now and their account gets written off. Well, guess what? If they come back in to reestablish their account, they're paying the $260. They're gonna pay. I mean, that is a requirement. They don't get to go back and pay their initial $100. So the nomenclature is not there for us to charge more for a deposit. And that's what we're gonna get with Kevin about.
Right, that's what I just
Talk
talked
about it
about.
and say, okay, look, if somebody has it, those fees are gonna have to be set. Once again,
Right.
I can't just walk up and go,
I understand.
I want you to pay $500.
But
So,
But what we want, if we're in agreement, and by the way, this is the only time we have an opportunity to discuss this stuff.
Right,
If we're in agreement, let's do it by the next meeting,
right.
very honestly.
Well, the attorney's gonna have to look at it, because we gotta make sure it's legal, number one. Number two, we already know that if they have,
Kevin needs overtime, so.
a low credit rating, we can charge them.
No,
But it doesn't
Kevin,
take that
it's not
long
to get overtime.
to get somebody's credit rating.
y'all just took me to 275. Kevin ain't getting no overtime.
Don't waste the cost of getting the credit rating. So you would add that cost to the cost of setting up an account. If you're
There's
gonna
a
go
reason
to-
why you can't.
If you're gonna do a credit rating to determine what the deposit should be, can you charge them the cost of that credit report?
See,
They'll take whatever it is.
it's a win-win period all the way around. And yes,
Other than training staff and having to comply with all the fair credit stuff, series of practice stuff, there's a whole, there's a lot.
it's not as simple as talking about it, it's just that it needs to be taken.
I mean,
It needs to be looked at.
we
They can do
look
a
at-
soft
we can
check
look at the credit
without
score thing, that's fine.
affecting their credit score.
It's gonna take a lot of extra work.
Right.
But
Well, they,
what
I'm sure they
what we do need to look at is if we have an account that's
You would
been
think.
multiple times delinquent, and they've been shut off when they come back on, we want them to pay them a higher
I agree.
Positive,
Yeah, I agree.
and not necessarily
I get it.
something
Yeah.
else.
We should have done this, we should have been doing that all along, because it's there, if we had not.
It's not there.
Well,
It
we
is
can
not.
change the verbiage.
Yes, you gotta change the verbiage.
And we can do it.
Right.
You know, people don't realize some of what was going on in the past. And very honestly, we are very fortunate, we're very fortunate right now. Because we've got, and I'll use a little bit of language, we got a hell of a group up in customer service, utility billing, and all now. And what we're finding, or what they're finding, therefore what we're finding, a lot of things occurred in the past. I mean, when we're talking about deposits and all that business, in many cases, we were actually given, well, in the past, we were given accounts to people that
Right.
didn't even own the property, that kind of thing. It's a real quagmire, but now, thanks to Lisa Mayer and her team, and of course, city manager, but primarily Lisa. A lot of that past, we don't even need to talk about it anymore.
She has turned that department around. I know it was the best when she took over. And then she had to go through the hurricane. So no, she's done a tremendous job getting her staff trained and they do a great job.
Yeah.
You make a note, city manager.
I am.
So none of what we're talking about is any kind of negative discussion on utility billing.
While we're on this subject,
We'll find
is
out.
there anything
We'll
you'd
find
like to
out.
add? Being,
This connect fees, I talked to you about that, where we at on that? $10 to connect, isn't that kind of low?
we're looking at the overseas and see what
Okay.
region, and I think that's,
Should be like 34.
Yeah, 30 or 40.
Yeah, I
That's what I'm
think- I
saying.
think,
We're at $10.
we talked about about the connection fees?
Yes.
That we talked about, that we're at $10.
We're $10.
And we should be higher than
We
that.
should be higher.
Yeah, we're gonna look at it just.
30 is pretty common.
Yeah.
We're gonna go through everything.
City
and bring it
manager,
back to
city attorney says 30 and 40 is common, and I know Lynn Haven's at 40,
They're at 50 inside
50?
city and 60 outside.
and we're sitting there at 10. And that's labor that we're using, and I don't think we should gouge them,
But we need to be fair.
but we need to be
We
fair.
don't need to be
Right.
losing money.
I think 50 is kinda high, personally. I don't think it's gonna cost $50 for them to drive out there and reconnect the water.
Well, let's find
But if
out.
we start doing the credit report, depending on what the cost of that is, we may need to do
Well,
something.
the connection fee comes in during development, right?
Yeah, it comes, well, if someone comes in and sets up a new account, it's a $10.
We're talking reconnects.
Reconnects, if there is no fee for reconnects, it's just a $50 delinquency fee for flat, whether they get disconnected or not.
Yeah, that connection fee is basically new service.
Reconnect before you get disconnected.
And most of the time, we don't always even go after that. Part of new service.
No, we take that as well. It's $260 deposit, so $10 of that goes to account setup, it's just fourth account, and the rest of it's to deposit. But I wanna address something, and I don't wanna take anything away from our active duty military, but a lot of these accounts that are going to collections are military, and they only have $110 deposit.
Well, to me, you should give me those names, and I'll call the first sergeant, so they pay me the next day.
I mean, I try to email them and let them know, hey, it's gonna go to collections. And sometimes I get a response, but a lot of times I don't.
We got inroad to the city, to the base commander right here.
But like I said, I'm the one that brought that to you guys in
Right.
the beginning, but.
So active duty only have $110 deposit.
Correct.
Why are we doing that? Did we establish that policy? I guess I missed the vote.
You were there.
We did.
You were there. It's another one that slipped by.
This has slipped by me.
Well,
And
Sounded good in theory.
But it's
So-
only for active duty military, and they have to have their
Right.
orders, and, but still.
I guess it's because I had a weak moment since I'm retired.
But also I wanna address,
So what would you recommend? 250?
250,
But then, you know,
just keep it.
So let's just make the change and be done with it.
in the manual, go ahead and
Okay.
do there's a 250.
Actually, I hope you're keeping some good notes.
I understand they're on active duty, but, you know, I don't think they should be treated any different than the rest of our,
Well, and especially if a lot of them are.
right?
Yeah.
So I agree with the 250.
we have statistical reasons for doing that, so this
Right, I know.
over 250.
Okay.
Is this because they're leaving the area?
Yeah, they get orders to go somewhere else, or they get out of the military and they leave, and we get stuck with bill. But also I wanna address, landlords, because they are a problem. A lot of times, these people that have delinquent accounts that go to collections, because landlords will not fix leaks. So, what do we do about that?
And that I made one.
Landlords not fixing leaks. We have one landlord in particular, will not name her publicly right now, but she refuses to fix leaks. And I'm talking, these people have $700-800 bills.
And we haven't disconnected it?
Well, we can't disconnect them just because they have a leak.
Are they paying their bill?
No, when they don't pay their bill,
They'll do that.
then we cut them, and then they leave, and we're stuck with the bill.
We put that triple meter on.
I mean, we can't do a leak
If you find out
adjustment.
about it, send certified letters to the landlords that,
Yeah.
you know, if you put another renter in there, they're not gonna get water turned on.
And we have implemented that
So,
policy.
yeah, right.
Me and Kevin have talked about that. If we
Which
know
I
there's a
understand.
leak on a residence and
It's
somebody comes
basically-
in.
It's basically like revoking their
Turn it
CO,
on.
like this is just not a
And what do we charge?
habitable property.
What's our deposit on that? We treat that as an individual hookup?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Now, the state doesn't allow us to go after the property.
Prior, or the prior tenant.
Now, if the landlord, if the tenant moves out and there's no active lease there and there's consumption there, I can bill the landlord for that consumption. But when the tenant moves out and doesn't pay the bill, we can't do a leak adjustment because it hasn't been fixed yet. We're stuck with these ginormous bills.
and the bills will also contain sewer, which is not through the sewer, but, you know, it still runs these bills up.
You just have to notify, I mean, you basically treat it like you're revoking their CO. I mean, you just notify
We don't
And
have
that's
to
what
put it in there.
Yeah, what they do now is we just say, well, we cannot turn on until, and then when they come in and they go, oh, we want water, we have to say no.
Well, you tell the tenant, well,
Yeah.
the property you're about to rent has a leak, so you don't wanna rent that until the landlord fixes it.
And by the time they get to us, they've already signed the lease, it's too late.
Yeah, cause they're bringing us the lease. And they pay their deposit. It's a huge quagmire we're dealing with right now.
How many
And
of
that's,
those?
and that's also part of what you're seeing in collections, these are
Yeah.
issues that are happening in collections, so. You know, when we start talking about trying to cut collections.
But that becomes a landlord-tenant issue, because then
And that's a
that
landlord-tenant
tenant, you can't go back to landlord and say,
Yeah.
you've rented me a property that's not habitable because you have a water leak out front.
City
It's not our
manager,
problem.
how many accounts do we have in problems with that? How many landlords?
I've got one landlord right now
Yeah.
that's difficult, she refuses to go over anything.
And how many
That's one
units
thing.
does that one landlord control?
She has several houses in Callaway, trailers,
But just on average, you know.
10 maybe.
10 a month.
See, that's what was on that sheet, 10 of like the collection.
Yeah, again, that's an issue that needs to be addressed in our policy, and fix it and go with it.
Well, that's the problem, we don't have a good fix.
That's what I'm
The best-
asking you.
The best, the
We
best
could
fix that we
refuse
have.
to connect the water to that apartment.
If we know there's.
Well, that's what we're doing,
That's what we're
but we've already ran up a huge bill that's going on in collections that y'all are yelling at us about, we don't.
Yeah, I understand that, but if the landlord wants to rent that unit, they're gonna end up paying that bill.
When they fix the leak.
No, they have to fix it.
No, they just have to fix the leak, they can't pay the bill. They're not required to pay the bill because.
And I understand that it's required. It's just that, again, these people out here are the ones paying for that bill, because we're,
We're trying to come up with
Yeah,
a solution,
right.
but
We're just, what Lisa's trying to do, we don't know what the answer is, okay? And we don't expect y'all to know what the answer is, but we want y'all to understand the difficulties that we have on a daily
I
basis in trying to, maintain. And I honestly believe our staff does a way incredible job for what they're dealing with.
I don't disagree with that at all.
And, we would love to be able to, come up one month and go, we don't have any collections. Next month, roll everyone over to the next one and let's put a zero out.
I was looking at it before I came here, and I can tell you it's not bad this month. So, but I will say this, just one last thing, when I did a robocall on June the 23rd at 3:07 in the afternoon for disconnects the next day, or people had to pay by the 25th, I still have 644 people that have not paid their bills. So we ended up with 237 disconnects.
237 is good compared to 1,000 where we used to be. But it's not good, but, that's why I think the Plan 2 city manager is that those people are common every month, they're the ones that are always late. And they might have the new meters, and instead of having to go turn that water off, you can do it from your office.
I agree.
Those 230 people, or 230 that are common every month, should be the first to get the new meters. And then instead of having to spend our labor to go turn that water off, we can just do it from the office and be done with it.
Yeah, we agree. That's part of the plan.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes turning it off doesn't mean that it stays off.
Oh, I've got people that will
But then
email me
it's
and
a
tell
law.
me straight up, I don't care what you do, I'm gonna do what I need to do, and turn my water back on.
Then that should be turned into our sheriff department, because we've already got a couple of them for
And
stealing water.
they get tampering charges,
Yeah, they get tampering charges and they turn it over.
and they don't care.
Or the new meters where they can't force them on,
No, they're just bypassing the whole system.
just cut line or whatever.
Yeah.
No, they'll go out, we have a tag, and we'll tag them, but it's almost got to where we don't hardly tag anymore, we pin lock everything. But they'll just break the pin lock.
Yeah.
Which
You
they,
get into anything,
they don't want to do.
Yeah. Or, there's even times when we see them, they'll go through and just pipe right around the meter. Straight pipe it.
But again, with our new software, we'll know if we disconnected that water, she'll know that next morning if water's still going through that line. So then, that could be turned into our sheriff's department for tampering.
Yeah, we're not going to, all of a sudden, zero water going.
Right.
We don't typically turn them over to the sheriff's department until they reach a certain amount of dollars,
Why?
because that's just what we've been
Why?
told.
Stealing water is stealing water.
What's the threshold on that?
$1,000.
Is it $1,000?
$1,000? Deputy Kid, what's the threshold on that?
What's the what?
The law on, we're not giving it to you till it's $1,000. Why so high? Who said that $1,000? Us?
That's just what I've been told. I mean,
We'll have to research that.
we
Much
have to
figure
research
it
it,
out.
but when we,
Well, I mean, maybe because it's, goes from misdemeanor to felony.
I think that's
don't
what
know.
it is. I think it's because it switches from misdemeanor to.
Yeah,
Can you look at that?
I think it's
We have one example, very honestly, right now, where they've put a lock on it twice, it's been cut off twice, been cut back on. This has occurred about 4 times on this same property.
Well, the sheriff's
Now-
office has that.
they're going tomorrow morning.
Or,
They'll
Yeah,
be
the
there
sheriff's
tomorrow
office
morning.
has that one.
you know,
This
but
was a back and back.
if we're dealing,
Short
we're not
time.
talking about $1,000, we're talking about less than $1,000, right?
They're over $1,000 now.
Oh, they're over $1,000
Well, they
now.
got $400 in tampering charges.
Yes.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Plus they damaged the meter.
You're not gonna see that money, period.
So if we have to replace that
Well,
meter.
in a case like
I think it's
that,
$750
we actually might,
right now.
because they're gonna be charged with a crime. So,
Okay.
So if we have to replace the meter with a new meter, our problem people, do they get charged for the new meter?
Nope.
Who pays for that meter?
it'll just come out. It's
It's
gonna be a
gonna come out of our
change, it's a
budget.
change out for our convenience.
That's why I wanted new construction to have the new meters, because if you
Yeah.
don't.
So we're getting away from broken meters are being replaced only to, we're gonna replace meters for problems, with the new meters, and
Right.
that's coming out of us.
When we shift over to the new meter, anything that has to be changed out, will be changed out to, we will not have 2 different sets of meters.
Right.
We'll take all of our old meters, we'll send them back for credit, and we'll get new meters in.
But,
But
We'll
if
send 200, we'll send 200 back, we'll get 100.
we change out the existing, we're gonna pay for it.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Just find out about that 1,000 limit,
Yeah,
because
city attorney.
if we have to wait for that, it could be very destructive.
City attorney.
I
If
think we should
we
try to
turn
charge
the
them
town
for
off,
the meter.
and they break the law, and that's tampering, why can that not be turned into the sheriff's department then? They can.
When does it
Yeah.
cut off for a felony?
I think 750.
That's
But otherwise it'd be a misdemeanor. I mean, it's still a crime either way.
But
It can, 100%, it's just be a misdemeanor.
Right, so-
Now, if the damage that they did, I mean, the meter's $500 and damage
So we should,
is 750.
Most of the time, it's not, it's just tampering.
It's just too much.
but tampering is tampering, tampering the first time should be given to our sheriff's department.
We'll have to look in well.
He's telling me we can do it, why do you have to look into it, that's why we have an attorney.
He's got his
Well,
back.
if we're gonna do that, then we probably have to.
Talk to the man right here, you know, that's what I'm doing.
We'll have to look at the manual and we'll make changes. to
We'll have to
it.
change
See,
it.
we're just trying to figure out what the process is gonna be or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I have to see what I'm
And do we want it to get to a felony? I mean, if we can get it to the 500 mark and then nip it in the butt, you know, at least we won't give a felony.
I'm not making
I'm not talking about felony, I'm talking about, we went out there, we put a lock on that meter, and that person broke the law. Our city attorney says, we can go ahead and call our sheriff department and charge him. So why do we wanna wait until we have $500 or $1,000 when they tampered our meters? It's a, you know, it's they're breaking the law. That's what I'm talking about. And if it's not our policy, then we need to change our policy.
We have it on the list.
Yeah, between 750 and 5,000 is.
So there's a cutoff on it?
Well, no, there's different categories.
Right. That's charging them, but in reality, my question was if they broke the law, that's still breaking the law. Correct. There. So we shouldn't have to wait till it's $750. The minute they break that law, we should give it to the fire department. That give you a headache?
No,
Can we ask Deputy McKenzie, do you know how how the sheriff's department would handle if we just turn it over because they tampered with the meter and it's like $100?
Yeah, it's very simple. If it's a miscommunication, we're gonna need a statement from, one of the employees saying that they saw the tampering, that not it occurred, but that it has occurred. We're gonna need a statement on when the last time that it was intact, and she usually gives us a receipt on how much, water's flown through and what value that water is. And then we, charge anybody that's in the house that knew or should have known that the water shouldn't have been flowing to the house, because the statute says that they don't have to be the one that stole it, they have to be the one of the ones that's used it. So it's very simple to make those cases, it's just a matter of somebody calling us.
Thank you.
And I think our employee needs to take pictures with their phone of the day.
Well, we're not gonna catch them doing it.
No,
When we catch the result, we never see the action.
The picture of the meter being,
We already need
shut off and locked, and then picture with it tampered with afterwards.
We need that.
Okay.
What's it called?
Anything else before I see if our audience has any comments? Mr. Schultz?
It's like what you had.
As long as you're discussing some things, a lot of the other cities do not offer senior discounts, I'm sorry, seniors, but that's true. We do. The other thing is, a lot of bills that you get from utility companies have a $5 fee for a paper bill.
Yep.
Because you offer online, you offer multiple ways to get that bill, we can send the bill email, so those are other things that you're gonna change the policy procedures that possibly need to be looked at.
Do it.
Why are you bringing that up? We're allowing people to put the bill on the credit card, and there's a charge for that too.
They're paying for that.
You'll charge
Not
me a
if they
fee,
do it
so
automatically.
you should take
We're not
away-
allowed to charge for recurring.
There's no charge for
There is no charge for recurring because you are not allowed. If they use a credit card or debit card and just make it not in the recurring batch, you are allowed to charge a fee, otherwise you are not allowed to charge a fee.
So are we allowed not to take
We're
credit
saving.
cards?
Why would we not take credit cards?
Because we're paying the extra fee.
We
If
bill
they-
that to the person using the credit card.
If
But
they
you
come,
just said you didn't.
no, if it's
Not if it's in
reoccurring.
their recurring batch, you are not allowed to.
That's what I'm
But why would I
talking about.
not want them to pay with a credit or debit card in a recurring batch? We probably get about 3,000 of the 6,000 accounts that pay that way. The stack went from this big, we print it out now, it's this big. It's a half a ream of paper. So there's no reason to not do reoccurring and allow them to use a debit or credit card. That would be crazy.
Does that make sense?
I'm gonna change mine to credit card from now on.
No,
Recurring.
just reoccurring.
I know,
Yeah.
yeah, that monthly thing, I didn't.
You can do
know
an
you could
ACH or
credit
you
card.
can do credit cards, but it's recurring.
She might-
As long as it's reoccurring.
It pays me, and you-
So did you add that to your list?
No matter what, you're gonna feed.
So in reoccurring, right now mine's on the checking account,
Oh, oh,
but I can get 1% or 2% if I do a credit card.
Yeah,
oh,
Or
we're,
recurring.
I get 2% on that.
I'm glad y'all brought this up, thank you very much.
so real quick, but
Once in your while.
we're gonna stop real quick. Mr. Schultz brought up two things. He brought up senior discount.
Right.
I agree with the senior discount.
I was about to say,
Keep it or get rid of it.
Keep it.
Keep it, yeah.
We've been having, we've kept it
We've had that a long time.
a long time. I don't,
What is the senior discount?
it's based on income.
Yeah, if you're over 65 and have a certain income
I'm
level.
good with that.
you get it.
what's the senior discount? How much is it?
25%.
25%. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't pay their bill hardly anyway, they need that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that helps.
And as far as the paper, very honestly, I'm on the computer, but I don't necessarily trust email and all the other things. I mean, even though I do, but I don't. And most of my bills, I still have paper, even though I can pick them up on
Well, ours serves two purposes. We also put the,
The
city
newsletter.
letter out with it.
Yeah,
So that's why I had the council line.
Yeah.
You, on your reoccurring, I mean, on your,
What's that?
if you don't get a paper bill and you're on reoccurring, the newsletter is attached.
Right.
So you still get it.
But it's online.
It's online, yes, you don't get a paper, yeah. What we're talking about is, we incur a fee, we pay to have these things mailed.
Right.
And that is a charge that gets passed on to everybody. So if they want a paper bill, yes, we do, the paper bill gets mailed out, and then also the newsletter is put inside of that for the people that do not do it.
A lot of places now, to mail you a bill, they charge you $5.
Yeah.
And pay online.
Well, I think that's something to discuss at a future time, eliminating both those and let
Well,
everybody.
we're discussing it now because we're changing the manual. We're gonna make changes to the manual, do it one time versus 2 or 3 times.
Now,
That's
be
what we're
very
discussing.
very honest with you. If I hit the hospital tomorrow,
Yeah.
or whatever, my wife has to pay, start paying the bills. Now, going on the computer and doing it, she's not real good at that. So, very honestly, a paper bill coming in, she would recognize that. If I spend 2 weeks in the hospital, I don't know about your wife, but does she know how to pay the bills, or is she doing it anyway?
No, she wouldn't even know when the bill is due for the water bill right now,
Right.
because.
So you would be late and
Right.
potentially cut off.
I have to,
You'll be in the hospital and your water's cut off. So very honestly, I wanna see the paper bill.
Reoccurring.
Reoccurring, it's automatic.
Then it automatically pays.
He's already done it.
I don't trust them.
Okay, I just wanna say one more quick thing.
So,
So, Commissioner Briggs,
Yes.
you brought up a very good point. And my staff is like the FBI. Okay, so we know you're Commissioner Briggs, but if your wife comes in, something happens to you, they're not gonna discuss the account with her, because she's not on the account.
Right.
She's not on there as an authorized user, we don't have any information on her, so they will not talk to her, we will not let her do a leak adjustment, nothing. She can pay the bill, but that's it. So,
That's
I'm
why
not
I
gonna
changed
let
my
everybody
account years
know,
ago.
if they don't have an authorized user on their account, they need to do so, and to do that, they have to come into City Hall with their ID and the account holder.
Yeah.
Because we're having a lot of problems with that.
But you can come in and pay somebody's bill.
You can.
We'll take your money.
We'll take your money.
Hey, we will take your money, but we're not gonna tell you anything else about it.
If you have the exact cash.
I don't know, we'll put it on the rest of that account.
Well, that's true. We decided we could do
And if we
that.
made a decision, if you get a paper bill, we're gonna charge for that.
No.
Why not?
I mean, I may be outvoted, but
Why not?
I don't wanna pay $5 for a bill.
Do we know what the cost is per,
Do what?
do we know what the cost is for Encode to send out a bill?
Right now, the statement that we've got was like almost $6,000.
Do we know how many was on that statement? Just as a potential.
Well, that's the billing for everything, that's the email bills and the paper bills.
Oh, okay.
And the newsletter too, is that?
Yes, it's all part of the same process.
Sewer charge. No bills.
But we do get stacks of mail back that are probably about this thick every month, because our lovely United States Postal Service can't read addresses.
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's the bill, refund checks, whatever, we get it in bulk on a daily basis.
And that is something I did wanna bring up also, just so everybody understands. We can be sending bills to an address for 6 months, whether or not it's paid or not, let's just say they pay it anyway. There are times when we will literally have a stack come in, we will have 5 months of bills to the same address at one time being returned. We don't know what's going on in this post office over here. And we do, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk bad about the post office.
Well, no.
You know, if it goes back, you know, they don't return it, or if they can't deliver it, why does it take 5 months for it to get back to me with the next 5 bills together for us all?
If it went out first class, you'd get it sooner. Since you've got a permit, very familiar with permits. I used it on the beach for 25 years. Using their permit saves money, but when it comes for them to return it, they're gonna hang on to it, and all of a sudden one day you're gonna get a big stack.
And that's what we get.
That's because we're using that permit. If we were paying first class, which we don't wanna do, then you get it back right away. So it's the service that we're paying for the postal system.
Wow.
So we're
I
getting
mean,
a
when people
discount
come
on
up
mail
and they
out.
go, hey, I'm gonna mail this, you should get it, you know, in a couple of days, we go, I think you better pay it over the phone. We're not guaranteed nothing. And if we don't get the payment, we don't care what the postmark says. It's gotta be in our hands by 5 o'clock, or 3 o'clock or something like that.
I'd still like to discuss what Mr. Schultz just said. You know, this is 2025, and I understand we have people out there, and it's not, you know, they're not savvy on computers.
I've been known as a dinosaur.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, we've given everybody in this city 3 different ways they can pay. You can do auto pay, okay, pay by credit card, or send a bill. And if you wanna have bill, then I think there should be a fee for that. Because, again, we wanna keep our taxes down, right? I don't think it should be $5. We can come up with a pretty good amount, because whatever the cost is, they can divide that by, they know the cost is a mail out, and divide it by total mail out, and come up with a cost. Probably it's only gonna be $1 or $2.
Well, very honestly, I like the Callaway connection.
Yeah.
In fact, you know, when we got the bill the last time, that keeps me up to date on what I'm spending and what I'm approving. Because the mayor, hopefully everybody's reading it, because y'all is knowledgeable by reading that Callaway connection.
They can come
As
by
the rest of us.
That can come by email also. It
Yeah,
doesn't have to be
if you're doing the email.
Right.
But there's some dinosaurs that are not. And I call myself a dinosaur, but I was a system administrator prior to retiring, so I'm not exactly a dinosaur. But,
I just
well,
think that staff.
I was trying to give myself a little credit.
Anything else? Well, that's maybe something we need to talk about in the budget. Cause I don't know, is there anything in the handbook about that, about the bills? Okay,
Look at it.
yeah, we'll figure out how much it's costing per bill, and what would it
I
cost?
think we ought to look at it and then have it ready to go in a new book. We can either approve it, or just.
Yeah, so they said they can kind of come up with the cost per bill
I don't think it's gonna be more than $1 or $2.
and determine.
Yeah.
if-
Of all the cities, there's more communication from this city to their citizens than any other city, at least in Bay County. So, I mean, of course, you lead the horse to water and you know, don't make him drink, but, him or her. But, the information is out there every month. Very honestly, thanks to the mayor, the information is out there. And I keep it on file, because when somebody calls me, I go to my file of Callaway Connections.
And I do know, now not everybody reads it, I know, but I know a lot of people do because I'll get feedback on it. So I know that a lot of people do read that. Do you have anything else before I open it up for our audience? Would anybody out there like to, dear?
No.
I know you're shocked, but Anna Pelletier, 7724 Shadow Bay Drive. I agree with charging for paper bills. Waste Management charges $8 for a paper bill. I think it's the least the city can do to step into the 21st century. That's my opinion.
Anybody else like to see? Everybody, yes, sir. I saw your hand next, so, but we'll get to everybody.
Oh, I'll go last.
Lawrence Lyons, 7003 Benjamin Drive. We all like to charge fees. I mean, it's easy. Like you said, $5, $6, whatever. But I think maybe we should take the energy and focus it on the delinquent aspect of this thing. How can we collect that delinquent money? Let's put the energy into those type of resolutions instead of just, doing fees. There is a thing, like you said, a lot of folks may get a bill, paper bill, because that's what triggers the fact that I need to pay this thing by the 15th. If the spouse or whoever pays it is in the hospital, like you indicated, that can sit there for 2 months because there's no trigger. If it comes in on an email or a computer, other people in the family may not know that because there may not be that communication that allows that to happen. If you're gonna charge me, say $5 for a paper bill, then charge me $2.50 and keep the newsletter. Okay? So those are the things you have to look at. But I think the bottom line, what I'm hearing is, there's a delinquency that needs to be resolved. That's where I think the energy needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Who else wanted to, yes, sir?
Yeah, I think my name's Tim Bruner, I live at 6620 Cherry Street. As far as the paper bill being charged for, I mean, well, as you were saying, a lot of the older people, now I'm fairly computer savvy because I've been dealing with them since they first came out. But a lot of the elderly people are the ones that are having trouble with computers or don't use computers at all. And they're also the ones that have the least amount of money to waste on $5 for a doggone paper bill. I mean, that's just, let's put it together there. You talk about trying to give the seniors a break, and then you wanna penalize them because they don't use computers. That's not quite right. And the other thing I wanted to mention was when you were talking about doing credit ratings or people are taking their credit, you wanna make sure that when you run their credit, that you do a soft credit rating on them so you don't end up damaging their credit by doing the credit reports too. So that was the two things I wanted to bring up.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, another people that went, Mr. Payne, did you want to?
Did I take your phone? I didn't mean to.
I don't know, I go last all the time, it's okay.
I'm a doctor, by the way.
I read the Callaway Journal, I really do. But the last one I got was in blue, and that was hard to read, being a dime. So if we just stay with white or lettering or something, I mean, for me, it was hard to read. That's just me.
Why was it blue?
It may have just been the font that he used, but I'll talk to him about keeping it more of a neutral color. He tries to go with a theme each month, so kind of, just for visual appearances.
Teresa Langston, 6031 Main Street. I have a couple comments to make. First one is, I'll say it, our postal service, lazy. They are absolutely lazy. As far as the fee for paper bills, I agree with Mr. Burrow because the older people, not that I have anything against them, they don't use a lot of computers. They don't have smartphones that they can go on, and pay it. So I think that the fee, at least waive the fee for seniors if you're going to charge a fee. But, I mean, we're gonna charge a fee for a paper bill, and then if we go online and pay, then we have to pay a fee when we pay it. I'm not doing the reoccurring because I'm sorry, I do not have that trust in any other company to watch my money but me, as far as, paying my bills and stuff. And then active duty. Okay, we have a bunch of military people up here. So why are we not contacting somebody at Tyndall for the active duty people to get these bills paid? That's why they have commanders, that's why they have first shirts. I mean, I'm not military, but I worked for a business to where if we had problems with active duty military, we contacted their first shirt and it got taken care of pretty quick. So I don't know why, being a military community, somebody doesn't already know this, somebody hadn't come up with this idea, somebody hasn't implemented it. Second of all, and then my last thing, is the cutoff dates. We have state statutes, I've already voiced my thing. There is a Florida Administrative Code that sets a cutoff date. So you can't go, well, your bill is due by 5 o'clock on Friday, we're gonna turn it off on the 16th. You do have to provide a grace period to the people. And on here, it says at least 5 working days written notice. Do we provide written notice separate from the bill? Do we provide written notice, or do we just do the robocalling? Because it doesn't, I mean, if we're not doing the written notice, are we violating that regulation or whatever, you know what I'm saying, that the state says? And then also, like, I don't know when we have our disconnections, because, you know,
26th.
well, I meant though, but I mean, but whether it comes on a Friday or not, or whatever, I mean, it also states that, you know, you shouldn't, you do the disconnections from noon on Friday to 8 AM on Monday, or, you know, they give different,
We don't disconnect on Friday.
okay. Well, thanks, I don't know, I don't take that chance, so I like my water, so.
Thank you. Is there anybody else, Mr. Shamer?
Ron Singer, 5711 Cabin Circle, covered a lot of territory here. Anyway, this water bill thing, you know, when you go to rent a house or an apartment, they tell you right up front, we want the first and the last, and we want a security deposit.
Right.
And when you move, they think that security deposit is theirs. I mean, you better be ready to fight if you want your security deposit back. So, but, you know, that might be something you might wanna consider, you know, the first and the last, and maybe a modest security deposit. You know, one apartment complex I know of, you know, they collected the first month and the last month. And, you know, when the month rolled around, if you didn't give them another month, you were gonna be out by the end of that month, so, you know. But it's something to think about, you know. But in renting property, why, you know, first month, last month, and a security deposit. But, you know, and back to the newsletter, I like the newsletter. I don't like the idea of getting charged for the posting. And, as far as computer savvy, I'm probably about the very least computer savvy of anything that ever walked. I go to the hospital or something, worst thing to hand you that tablet. Good God, I tell them I'm gonna need help.
Credit union too.
Yeah, but on the credit score, you know, that can jump up and down, you know. If you got a credit card, if you got a fair size balance, and you let it, you know, you make a minimum payment, why, you know, your score jumps up, but there's a certain time of month you can pay it right before they report it, and you know, you got a $25, $30, $40, or $100 balance, and your score can jump, you know, 15, 20 points, because you're not using much of your available credit. And what really drives me, they try to beat you into getting more credit, so you'll be using a smaller percentage of it. And so, you know, that's something to think about.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shamer. Anybody else? Yes, sir?
Easy now.
Good.
I have a couple things that was brought up that I wanted, one is, we're discussing turning off meters on people, and some people are already down and out, and we're kicking them with all these fees and stuff. It's like kicking a person that's down on the ground
with more fees all the time. I don't know what the answer is to that, but I hate fees being assessed on me and assessed on me and assessed on me. I've had them assessed on me when I first moved here because my bills went to Reno, Nevada, and I lived here, and I get my meters shut off every other month and everything else and all, and, it was, so I learned to pay my bill 3 months in advance. But, when you keep assessing these fees on people who are trying to do what's right, that's not right either. Second thing is, I've been here several times discussing city leaks that have gone on for 2 and 3 months. And I've got into it with Eddie Cook that I pay for this as a citizen when these leaks go on for 2 and 3 weeks at a time. And so how can we penalize a customer who has a leak when the city has leaks everywhere, they don't do anything about it? Next thing is military discounts. 2 years ago, they went through and did a study and gave the military more BAQ. So I don't know why the military has the discounts when they up their military pay for housing way more than substantial. Senior discounts, I'm all for them. Reoccurring billing, I don't like it either. I've had some reoccurring billing. My accounts got hacked, and I had to go through and change them. It's a nightmare, and it makes it a pain in the butt to do that. So those are the things that I want to talk about tonight. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else? I don't see anybody. So I'm going to assume that's everybody that wanted to talk about utility bills, so. I think we've done.
That Port Administrative Code, that's for utilities regulated by the PSC, just for example. So there's not a universal PSC rate for municipal.
Teresa, did you do that?
Yeah, for, PS, like a private, like Utilities Inc. up in Sandy Creek, they would have been, had to comply with that.
And that's one of the reasons they went out of business. Well, we have to take over.
Right.
End our discussion, I think we did it today. So we were going to move that your direction.
We'll probably be rewatching this tape 50
Yeah,
times.
okay.
We're used to it.
We will go on to agenda item number 3, our 25-26 budget workshops and budget hearing schedule.
I'm okay with it.
I don't have any problems with it.
Mr. Schultz, those dates still?
No, the only problem I want to know is when we're gonna have a hard copy in our hand, not 2 to 3 days before.
You said that every year,
Yeah, I
and
know.
but you get it way before that. What's the?
What's way before?
A week before?
Week before?
Mr. Schultz, we good for a week before?
Sometime that week before, yeah.
Yeah.
I have an issue on August the 5th. Could we either do it at 2 in the afternoon or move that one to Wednesday afternoon?
Good for me.
2's good. Which one you want?
Whatever works for the
I
group.
don't care.
I don't care.
Could be whatever time.
Scott hadn't said anything, so I'm good.
You know,
So he's good.
Either one's fine, we can move it to 2, we can.
Wednesday I could do it, on Tuesday I can't do it till at least 2. Do we wanna do Wednesday so we can start at 1? and get it done?
Start
Everybody
at 2,
good?
we can start at 3.
Yeah, but we wanna get done before.
We used to be here till midnight, we talked about.
You talking about the third one or the second?
I'm talking about the second, August the 5th. So should we do August the 6th at 1?
That's fine.
Is that okay with everybody, August the 6th at 1?
August the 6th,
We'll Wednesday.
Let me check my calendar. It's a
August 6th. Thank you.
Ashley, yeah.
oh, we're gonna just change that one day. Now, if we're looking at a week prior to that, see what the problem is?
I have a problem on the 6th.
Oh, well,
I have a
52?
Yeah.
That work? Okay.
52 is fine with me.
So we're back to August the 5th at 2. Yep, I need to.
So if we have the budget workshop on the 29th, and we make various changes and all that on the 29th, and then say, well, for the August the 6th, we want the budget in our hands a week ahead of time. I mean, almost by the time we finish.
I ain't worried about, I ain't worried about the August, I'm worried about the original. Cause we've never had
Oh,
issues.
the original?
Yeah, we've never had issues on rewrites. In other words, any changes that they give us, they do the changes while we're in here. Most of the time, they do them on their spreadsheet while we're in here, I think.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
And I don't care if I get it the day before then, I'm talking about the initial budget.
So we'll have it by the 22nd.
You'll have it.
Yeah.
Right, by the 22nd of July.
Cause we parked up the original, so we know what's coming up. Yeah.
So we're good with everything, and on the 5th, we're doing 2 instead of 1. Anybody else, do anybody in the audience want to talk about the dates of the budget meetings? There's not much to talk about, but I wanted to give anybody the opportunity.
The only date that really matters for my concern is the first budget hearing, because that has to go on the trim notice, and I have to report that to the property appraiser, like, tomorrow.
So the
So when
September dates,
It goes in when I report the maximum millage, so that's the biggest date. The first budget hearing is September 4th. As long as that's good, you cannot change it, because I have to report that to the property appraiser for the trim.
everybody for the 4th. Okay.
Not a problem.
Nobody wanted to talk about it. We'll make up our time.
That didn't take 45 minutes.
We'll make up our time. So we're good on 3, okay, item number 4, informational purposes, city to accept new water and sewer lines for new subdivision on Highway 2297. City manager.
This is truly informational purposes only, just because we know people are gonna be driving down 2297. They're gonna see a lot of construction. There's 10 homes going right up in a row. This is not something that normally has to come before y'all to see, but we're just doing it for information so that y'all will know that we will be accepting the water and the sewer for those 10 homes that are going in. It's actually gonna help us, because as y'all know, we're looking at the chlorination station that's gotta be put somewhere on 2297. That project is on hold currently, because the county is talking about putting in a chlorination station up here at the tanks. That will probably help us out. The flow of additional water, even to 10 houses, is gonna help us pull our chlorine levels up. And so we're just kind of monitoring that, but we just wanted to let y'all know what was going on out there, so y'all would know. All that is.
And it is in Bay County, not in Cali.
That's why we don't regulate it, we're just gonna be regulating utilities for water and sewer. It's just information, just so y'all know what's going on out there.
I already talked to them.
Anybody in the audience want to talk about the informational item? Okay. Item number 5, discussion on water and sewer rate increase. City manager.
All right, so just background, everybody understands. The county, they charge us for processing sewer. We purchase our water from Bay County. So the city received letters from Bay County indicating that sewer rates will be increasing as of October 1, 2025, and their water rates will be increasing January 1 of 2026. And that'll be for the fiscal year 2026. Water rates are gonna increase by 2.6%. Wastewater treatment will increase by 4%. So in order to increase the rates for the city of Callaway, if it's decided to do so, we would have to advertise increases 2 months in advance of the date of the increase will take effect. So we just wanted to let y'all know that, I will give you the background on this. Many years ago, the county did water and sewer study. After the study, they did what's called a rate study. And that rate study indicates what they should be going up every year. And they're basically following that rate study and using it as a guideline for the increases that they're giving to the cities. So, that being said, it's gonna gonna cost us more to process. I'll open it up for y'all comments and discussion.
Well, it has a figure involved with those, we talk about percentages, but with water, we're only talking about 5 cents.
Per thousand.
5 cents per 1,000 gallons, so 5 cents per 1,000 gallons on the water, 15 cents per 1,000 gallons on the sewer.
You know, 15 on,
Sewer.
just so everybody understands how it works, the way you get billed sewer based on the consumption of water. So however much water goes into your home, it is automatically assumed that's what's going down the sewer. That's why for people that have irrigation systems, they always come and get a separate meter, because they're just charged consumption. They don't get charged sewer on that, so that's where that kind of comes in. So we're talking 20 cents a 1,000 gallons.
Right.
Yeah.
Average household uses what, Lisa? 4,000 or 5,000? So, talking about $1 increase per household.
If you just pass through, and not increase on top of that.
Don't shoot the messenger, they sent us the letter, we just have to bring it to y'all. Okay? That goes for y'all out there too.
It's gonna be every year forever and ever.
It will be, we will continue to see.
County is gonna increase every year.
And we're not adding, we're just passing on.
I mean, a lot of cities, they'll do 3% plus the pass-through.
Right.
So if you're not, if you can't.
We quit doing that years ago. We used to do that.
Are y'all recommending we raise the match?
No. Oh.
Yeah.
Passed it, yeah.
Yeah.
This is just a discussion though, right?
No.
No, we need to know for
And
the budget.
discussion.
Then why do we say discussion?
Well, we have to notify them in advance.
We have to send a letter out. to
Once
all the
again,
cities.
it will also be in the utility manual.
Right.
You know, we have to do it there. Now, when we talk about a 2% increase, there's base rates, we're not touching the base rate.
Right.
Base rate remains the same, so it's only on your consumption.
And we used to increase the base rate every year too.
We don't do that.
We've not done that, and my gosh, I can't remember the last time.
Since you and I got on board.
Yeah, we've not raised the base rate in years and years. So, yeah, I mean, 5 cents on water and 15 cents on sewer. That's my thought. We're gonna get charged with,
When do we have to make a
In
decision?
other words, you're talking about us, before we come a bit
When I
like.
bring the utility billing manual back to you,
yeah, I mean, we need to know, cause there'll be,
It'll need to go into effect October 1 to match.
but they're gonna update the utility billing manual for our next meeting. Hopefully.
yes, we would just put an effective date on it.
So,
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
effective
need
rate.
to, we need to go ahead and decide, because then it'll.
Well, the
also-
utility manual will take effect immediately, but we can put an effective date
Yes.
on
On that
that
rate
rate
increase.
Yes.
of a rate increase.
All we're doing, Mayor, is passing through what we're being billed. That's all.
Exactly. We're
Nothing
not-
more, nothing less.
Nope, we're not.
And 2 years in a row, we didn't pass that through.
That is true, we have paid it.
But I think at this time, I don't think we're ready to even discuss that, because we have to start talking about what we've got in reserves, and I think we've got so many other things that need to be done in the city.
Yeah, I don't think we can afford to eat.
I think it needs to go, whatever we get charged, we just pass it through.
Yep, I think so.
I think before we make the decision, we need to see what how the budget's being met
Has
this
nothing
year.
to do
Do
with
we
the
have
budget.
any surplus in our water and our sewer? And if we have a surplus in our water and sewer, can we absorb some of it? And if we can't, we can't. But I think it's just premature to go ahead and make a decision right this moment.
If we had a surplus in water and sewage, I'd like to say it's.
Well, you're not approving it tonight, you're still not approving it with the resolution.
Still goes up for discussion, I just need to know what I need to put in.
Yeah, I mean,
Then you can.
It'll be too late to discuss it after we end up with, what our surplus is gonna be.
We do have to advertise it in the
Right.
newsletter
Has to be
and on the
advertised.
bills for 2 months before it can go into effect.
And that's October.
October.
Okay, so we still have this month.
Correct.
Well, it would would need to go in the August.
August and
Yes.
September.
Yeah, just, all you say is we're considering a rate increase for the tax October one. But then you'll have to still come back and vote on it prior to the.
Right.
Well, you can talk about surplus. I look at surplus like right now, and, you know, we talk about budgeting, and we do a zero budget. The surplus comes in from the department heads that are watching their budgets so close, and they're trying to cut, and we try to keep our costs down, because we don't wanna have to come back later. And that's what has actually built our reserves to where they are now. But when you have to look at the future growth. And we've got Gulf Coast Parkway coming on right now, and there's another rather large development that's gonna be coming online here pretty soon. Y'all are gonna see it, can't talk about it, don't ask. And so, you know, when you start looking at like even Gulf Coast Parkway, we don't have sewer up there. So we're going to have to get sewer up there, and it's not gonna be something that we're gonna be able to pass on, because it's gonna be such a large distance. And one developer's probably not gonna wanna pay for all of it, and that's, we're talking about the Kimbrell expansion up to Gulf Coast Parkway. And we're gonna need a master lift station up there. It's been on the radar for several years. The reason we don't do it is because we don't want to be super proactive, and we end up with a system that's not being used. But we wanna plan for it so that we can be quick on the reaction part of it to get it done. So that's one of the things that we look at. Also, we're also implementing within, and y'all are aware that we did the master water and sewer study. We're in the final things, as everybody knows, they turned in their first draft to us, we went through it. It generated a lot of questions within staff has been going out. That information has been gathered, it's now back with the engineers, and the engineers are plugging all that in. But that sewer study and water study is telling us where our deficiencies are, and then gives us a plan on how we attack the system so that we can have the best.
We're gonna get a copy of that.
As soon as we get the final draft in.
Okay.
And I'm more than happy to give you the first draft if you want to see it. What we're doing is we're tweaking a lot of minor stuff. It's not gonna be major, but, you know, there was certain things that, like our GIS system didn't match up perfectly with what the engineering plans said for certain lift stations, and we had to go out and dig out and look to see, hey, what size is that line? Is it an 8 or is it a 12? And so we had to do a whole bunch of stuff like that, and then just reevaluate. We wanna make sure that when we accept that study, that it's a complete study, and it's big. You know, see it sitting on my desk, and so and once we get that one, I'll give it to y'all so y'all can look at it. But it does have the list of priorities of what we need to do first. And, you know, so we're gonna need to budget for that. The problem is, and I will tell you right now, I went after 3 major grants for redoing lift stations. We didn't get a single one. State cut us out on everything. All that money, that grant money, that, you know, they say, oh, it's drying up because of the hurricane. No, it's drying up across the board. There's nothing coming out. The spillway project did not get funded. Why? That's resiliency 101. That is, if that thing fails and falls down, we're gonna lose wetlands. I'm just gonna blame it on the state. You know, that's what we're gonna do, because we're trying to help you get the funding to help us out with all this stuff, but no money's coming down. We asked for $500,000 for road paving, and we matched it $500,000 in next year's budget. They cut us $250, but they still want us to put up $500. Last year, we didn't get any money for road paving. The governor cut everything. He cut it. We asked for $1 million with a big match. And I mean, so we're not getting any help from the state. And that's just drying up. So yeah, I'm pretty upset about the way that things are going at the state, because I've already said it once. They can scream Doge all they want. They're cutting the money that's coming back to Callaway. They're cutting the money that's coming back to the state. I mean, from the state to the cities.
And they're cutting sales tax on items that,
and guess what that's gonna cut? That's gonna cut your revenue that's coming back here, because we get some of that sales tax money. And bet if you read it fine enough, and I'll say this, I bet they're cutting the money that's coming back to the cities, not the money that's going to the state.
The Kimball situation where we were looking at, we knew we had to do with water and sewer on that. We were also looking at, we would have some impact fees on that apartment complex that is in the county, but here again, rural water and sewer. Some of the things
And
that,
that project got pulled.
right. So that was over $1 million and some odd dollars of impact fees that we could have used for what we needed to do in Kimball going north. Also, was taking place at the Galleria, and at least one of those projects with 300 and some odd apartments there is off the books right now. So that's another major hit on things that, we could do with impact fees. It's gonna get interesting. And the way the state is going is gonna be, like I say, take a look at the year after next. It's gonna be interesting.
And fortunately, we're in a great spot. We don't have any long-term debt except for the extension. Other than that, we're good. And we got plenty of money in reserves, so. And I attribute all the money in reserves from how well staff is doing with their budgets. They come in under budget every year. But by golly, we can spend it. We need it. We have needs, we gotta get met.
I think we need to have a discussion on that one budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But back to water and sewer rate increase.
Pastor?
I'm good with that.
We have got public comment, is that, should we listen to public
Yeah, I'm
comment
going to
first?
listen to public comment. I just didn't know if we were done discussing up here. Okay. Would anybody in the audience like to talk about the water and sewer rate? Nobody? Okay, well, you need a vote or just a direction?
Seems right, you're gonna have to come back and vote on it once you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Just consensus or majority consensus.
Consensus for the budget.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I think you've got at least three that say they're the past three. So that brings us to the end of our agenda. So commission staff comment, I have just a couple things. We did have the home dedication for the Habitat for Humanity Village, so that's nice that we've got one tenant, and they'll have another one that will be finished pretty soon, I think that second house. The July 4th event, like I said before, Tim's crew did a great job. Unfortunately, we didn't have as much turnout as you'd hope, but it's hot. It's hot out there, so I think that contributed to some of it, but the people that did show up had a good time. I got lots of compliments on our entertainment this year. I know the kids all had a good time, so. Yeah, they like those water slides. And one other thing I wanted to mention, I was asked by the county to do a letter of support to open the East Pass, so they sent a letter that Ashley prepared for signature, so I've signed that to just say that the city of Callaway supports the opening of the East Pass.
Yeah.
So I didn't think there was any controversy in that, so I just went ahead, she's got the letter, she'll put it in the mail tomorrow.
Both the commissioners of Bay County and myself are trying to get them to
Yep.
come on board with that. So, thank you.
No, you're welcome. So it looks like our next Bay County League of Cities dinner is gonna be August 11th, if you wanna just do a save the day. August 11th, we're still working out the location and stuff, but it should be Secretary Perdue from the Department of Transportation, State Department of Transportation. And that's everything I have. So I'll try to be brief, so Commissioner Davis?
First thing, I've had many people reach out about the cemetery. It really does look nice. No question, is the drainage project behind it done? 100%?
Not 100%. We're doing the final tweak this week.
start on that out parcel. Been stuck, I imagine, I thought he was gonna start the demo already. And that was it. Catch up on all the project updates.
What'd you do for that? Commissioner Griggs?
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up, painting on the intersection of Highway 22 and Bertha.
Yeah,
And
I
at the
appreciate the message.
at the last meeting, the city manager committed to getting it done, even if he had to go out there and do it with his own paintbrush.
Right. It ain't
And
done.
I called him the other day and saw it was done, so I called him and thanked him for at least staying between the lines. He ended up getting it done, so thank you very much.
I had to close the road down between 1 AM and 4 AM with me out there with a paintbrush.
But you finally got it done, we appreciate that. I said earlier I was gonna talk a little bit about, some of the damage and all that's been occurring on the, on our parks. And very honestly, with your permission, could we get Tim up here to, let everybody know what's been taking place out there?
Come on. Most of Moore Park, right?
Yeah.
Go park.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've had several things, and, I guess going back, I'll go back several months ago, we had been leaving the restrooms open at the new building that's, closest to the football field, the large concession building, and we had problems with just random vandalism where they go in there and tear all the toilet paper out of the dispensers and all the paper towels and scatter it around. But then it kind of led into bigger things, and we had the sinks ripped off the walls several times. And it's one of those things I thought about putting on some of our Facebook posts and say, hey, this is happening, but at the same time, I didn't want anybody to feel like, they're getting credit for it or whatever, it's just some things I think are better off not made a real big deal about, but we literally have replaced 4 sinks in those brand new bathrooms. Fortunately, we got very good deals through Ace with some sinks that they were going to get rid of, so it didn't cost a lot of money to the city, but we have spent quite a few hours doing repairs in those restrooms. So now we do keep them closed during the daytime unless there's an event booked there, which there's always restrooms open, the ones over closer to the community center by the boat ramp, we always leave those ones open. But we are locking those, other than like if we have the pavilions rented, we unlock them, and if we have some sort of event, scheduled event going on, but it's.
Those doors are just hidden on the backside.
Yeah, they're on the backside of the building, and, they're not so obvious. The other ones, we don't get as much vandalism, but we've had vandalism in those ones also. We've had people go in and light the toilet paper on fire and different things. This past weekend, when we came in on Monday, they had ripped the electric meter off the brick storage building next to the schoolhouse. Tore the fence down on one end of the football field. It's just little things like that that happen quite regular, which end up taking a lot of our man hours and time to repair. We've had the same type of situations at Veterans Park.
So we now have robust internet out there, and so we're looking at, camera and everything.
We've been talking about cameras out there for years, city manager.
But we just got the.
We got internet now, so we want to get it done.
To that building, so we have it in the concession too, right?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we have internet in the concession.
So we're.
Internet use.
You're gonna do more than one camera, correct?
And that's the thing, is it is gonna be fairly pricey to
It's
do
gonna be
it
pricey.
properly.
Well, it is what it is, right, sometimes?
And one of the things that's very concerning, And one of the reasons I wanted you to bring up all this, because as I said earlier, people see something, get on the phone, dial 911 and sheriff's department.
Yeah, and I'm constantly telling people that. I'll get a call on Monday morning that, oh yeah, there was some kids out there tearing this up or things. Call the sheriff's office while it's happening.
Plus, when I found out, a citizen called me, and when I found out about the electric meter, of course, they pull the electric meter off, but then you got live wires.
Yep.
So, well, I won't say what I'd like to say, so just put it this way, somebody could get themselves, even the person who pulled the meter off could get themselves hurt. So, we don't want that to happen.
We're gonna catch them. Somebody could put a hammock out there and camp out.
Yeah, fortunately, no one was injured with that, but that could have been very dangerous right there next to the walking path.
Thank you for bringing all that up. I want everybody to hear what we hear. Anyway, can I bring up the Historical Society?
Sure,
Yeah.
you sure can.
I'm gonna bring this up because we finally, you know, in this Historical Society, we like to get various presentations in, and we've been able now to get a gentleman who's gonna be a gentleman who most of you probably know if you have any kind of voting information. That's Captain Rick Corley. And Captain Corley is a licensed unlimited motor steam sail submariner, endorsements, has 56,000 hours at sea in the various disciplines, 12,000 hours in flying, and is a Marine, which particularly around here, and he's obviously from here, but over 8,000 surveys on your boats. So I'm very familiar with him because insurance companies require surveys on your boats. Marine investigations, but he's a very unusual person with a fantastic memory, and very honestly, he's got over 60 years of stories and everything. So we had to bring him into the Historical Society for the presentation. He only has 45 minutes, so what we did is at least bring in for two certain things, and I'll tell you what they are. Barging in the 21st century and the importance of inland waterway system to the economy of U.S. and Bay County, the barging systems. He was a captain on various tugboats. And another thing which you probably will have interest in, very honestly, is surviving the North Atlantic perfect storm. I don't know how many of you know what the perfect storm was. You've probably seen the movie 2 or 3 times like I have. But that was a hurricane, the Hurricane Grace in 1991, but the hurricane wasn't that bad. It wasn't like Hurricane Michael. But what happened up there in the Northeast was multiple systems came together. And when those systems came together, it created what people up there really call a killer storm. Not a perfect storm, but a killer storm. And the wave heights, recorded wave heights, were over 100 feet. And Rick was in a ship up there, captain of a ship up there, and what he was telling me, he didn't hit the 100 feet, he hit the 85 feet. So and what he was doing up there, the ship, what he was doing, that right now with certain things being released from the government, he can now tell us what he was doing up there, what his ship was doing up there. And let's say it involved submarines, and it involved the Russians. But he happened to be in that storm and survived it. And, so he's got answers, certainly answers related to that and multiple other situations. So, just wanted to let everybody know, we were trying to get that in the newsletter and slipped through the cracks. But, he'll be, Thursday, July the 17th at 5:30 at the community center in Gore Park at the ramp. And Thursday, July the 17th at 5:30. And, Rick will be there, and he is a tremendously interesting. You know about him because of,
The ship.
right, the shipyard. And, he moved quite a bit of ships for that. I was fortunate to be with him on about 6 of them. But, anyway, just wanted to get that out.
That it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you for running through that, because you could explain him a lot better than I could. So
No
thank you.
problem.
Okay, Commissioner Pelletier,
Solid waste, where we at?
Where we at on the bid?
Going out the bid?
I was waiting to ask for feedback
Oh,
from
is the
staff.
final feedback? Yeah, it's ready.
I have the scope and everything ready to go.
Scope is ready, yeah.
So we're gonna go off the bid?
Yep. It'll be out tomorrow.
I'll wait for the rest.
okay, Commissioner Ayers,
Yes, ma'am. City manager and I did a thorough, review of the city projects and so forth, today, and, we noticed, or at least I noticed, along with him, that, Hampton Inn has started on, Kendall Parkway. So, we've been waiting for that to start for a while, looking good. Callaway Point had 2 major water breaks. Our guys got out there and fixed those right away, and I really appreciate that, so the citizens over there. So, good job. The Bay Estuary Committee, I attended that, and the mayor talked about, putting a letter endorsing opening the old pass. We're working with them to try to, I guess, be more forceful in our position, and, that way we can pass it on to, the state and, try to get that old pass open so we can get the water cleaned up over there. Cemetery is outstanding. If you haven't been by, I'd go by. The fence is just beautiful. We did talk about the drainage a little bit. You just have to rework some of the drainage, but other than that, everything's in place, so it's looking really nice. That's all I have.
okay. City clerk, you have anything for us? No. City attorney, or city manager,
All right, let's start with the little stuff. The project for the 5 lift stations, those lift stations are ordered. They'll begin probably in 4 weeks, and then they'll get started on that. Hugh Thomas is under a notice to proceed. They're just getting some finalized stuff, and then they'll get started on that. Sandy Creek is still under environmental, but we expect that to clear this week. This month. That's state stuff. We never know what's gonna happen. Beacon Point. Y'all are getting ready to be shocked. Beacon Point sold last week. They are under new owners.
Nothing's gonna happen.
They're under new owners. I personally think it's gonna be a good thing. Now, we we are under grant for the state. The old owners had a contract with us.
And they took their $1 million in there.
No, not at all. They're under the hold for all of it, because they have a contract with us, whether they own it or not. So the new owners have been presented. I met with them the other day. I'm waiting to hear back from them this week. They'll say if they're going to accept. If they do, then we'll go off the contract and we'll continue on.
We're just assigning that one to them.
We just assign it over to them. So, you know, they're doing their evaluations. It's 3 owners. One of them's very local, very much versed. I'm not gonna give any names out yet because I don't know, but, you know, it's one of 2 things are gonna happen. They're either gonna accept it, and if they accept it, then we just move right on. We're at a point right now where the building's ordered. We're shifting back around. My request I made to the new owners was fire the architect that we've had so much trouble with and hire a local engineer to take over so we can get this stuff moving much, much faster. It's not delaying us hardly at all because right now the building has been designed by the company and sent back over and the specs are being reviewed by the CEI and then it'll have to be signed off on we'll move down that pool. So it's not delaying anything, but I did want everybody to know this is what's going on.
You're talking about the front parcel too, right? You're talking about that front parcel.
Well, the whole entire grant, but yeah, the building for the front parcel. They do have the option to not accept the contract. If they don't accept the contract, then we're going to basically deny the grant. We will withdraw from the state. All monies spent comes from the old owner. He has to pay everything. He has to pay for all the construction that's been done. He's gonna have to pay for the administration costs.
He paid for that 25,000 check. That's demo already.
Yeah, but there's still lots more stuff involved. The contractor that has the job, we have to withdraw that contract and all penalties and stuff will have to be paid.
Right.
It'll be of no cost to us.
Have we been reimbursed right now?
It's already been paid.
It's already been paid.
Yeah, all that's already, the demo and all that's already been paid. That's all taken care of. There's like $30,000 plus in administrative costs that goes to, GRAS, and then it'll be whatever else goes before, if they've incurred anything, any additional funds, which they have, it wouldn't be much. But they'll have to buy the construction contract out, in full. The new owners are committed to expediting getting it done quickly. Now that the front parcel's out, they would really like to work on the inline, which is the back parcel, the strip parcel, because it's dilapidated. Can't do that, not under this grant. Under this grant, the grant was phased, phase 1 was the out parcel. So they would have to build the out parcel and then move forward into that. So that's their evaluation that they need to do. And then the only reason why they may not move forward would be over the fact that because the inline, when I say inline, that's the strip mall part of it. That strip parcel, even though they would only be getting about $1 million towards that, because it's under a grant, it has to be completed out to CO. So I think there is a great possibility they may pull out completely. And if they do, the out parcel will go away for right now, and they'll move and fix the inline portion and get that up. And they do have a very vested interest in getting it done quickly. Yes.
And the slab on the out parcel's been removed, so it's all flat now, right?
No.
No, it's still got the slab there?
Slab's still there.
Okay.
Yeah, that was one of the things that, you know, that would be part of the out parcel. So,
See how to state this. In our back pocket, we've always had the code issue, which has all been delayed. We didn't need to go with code because of all this was going on. If they end up pulling out of this, I say we go with the code and at least get everything torn down Well, we'll take care of it being torn down and
Amen.
build a new
What
one.
code issue? We've already discussed that, Commissioner. We've been told by the city attorney and city manager, there was no code issue for aesthetics.
It's not.
Okay, so what's gonna come down? I don't wanna put a word out to the audience, we've already been told by city manager and city attorney that we cannot go after them for aesthetics. So what code issue do we have?
For them, and you're exactly right.
Right, that's why I wanna clear the air.
But we do have that
I
in
did not
parcel.
know that.
Pardon?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, we're no.
That's why I wanted to
Now,
voice my opinion on that.
we can address the in parcel. I think so.
Unfit, unsafe structure.
Yes, we can address the in parcel, which is the big open area. So that would be considered a hazardous structure, and we can go after that.
Well,
The owners, and trust me when I say this, the owners have an extremely vested interest to get this done extremely quickly. And if they come through, I've requested that they give us a timeline on what they're gonna do. And, that means we would address that in parcel.
city manager, I hate to argue with you that what you're telling us is totally opposite what you've been saying for years. If we could have done a code issue on that our parcel, I don't know why we didn't do it 6 years ago.
Kevin, they've got it, they got it fenced off, so that nobody can get in there.
The nuisance abatement is if it's an unfit, unsafe structure. If something that large, you have to go get a structural engineer out there and test it and see.
I just wanna make sure we get information out correctly, because at the end of the day, we've had this discussion over and over and over again. We've told all of our citizens out there, because we went through months and months and months of,
And I'm telling you, it's like Kevin said, I have to have structural engineers out there and say it's unfit and safe. But I think we have leverage. Let me rephrase that. I think we have some leverage over that in parcel. But we'll have to give them an opportunity to, as the new owners, they'll have to have an opportunity to move forward.
I'm just saying, if we had leverage now, we should have had leverage 5 years ago and had that cleaned up, and we would not have had all this bickering back and forth on that particular structure. I'm talking from the citizens and stuff, from them. Right. And that's what we've been told time and time again, and now we're changing stories, and I hate that.
No, it's still the same way. I can hire a structural engineer to go out there and see if it's unfit and safe. But it's just gonna be that in parcel, the rest of it's fine.
I understand that.
Do we have any kind of schedule where we could meet with the new owners? Just to get an idea what things wanna go on with this?
Welcome to come to a commission.
I've met with them one time.
That
I
would
met with
work.
them, they came to City Hall, I met with them. Well, I met
They
with
won't
the
make
one
them
guy that's local. And then he was going back, and then we're supposed to meet again this week. And I'll be more than happy to invite them to a commission meeting, once a decision is made.
And David, if you got something to say, please come up and say it. Okay.
Sorry. What I said was they're welcome to come to a commission meeting. Anybody is. As far as this grant goes, I personally wish it would go away. It's been a pain in the butt since it started.
Thank you.
And I concur. I will never do a public-private partner agreement again.
Well, I just think at this point, if you're telling me that we could do something with a structural engineer, why are we waiting?
Because they're under the grant.
I don't think it has anything to do with the grants at the end of the day, right?
Yes. Every bit of it. I can't even bust a piece of concrete without it being written in a grant.
Okay? Because we got money left over. We have money left over in the grant. That $2 million is not covering the whole
Agreed?
Yeah.
Yeah. But no grant money's gonna be spent.
I understand. I'm
We
just
don't
saying
get
is
it.
that,
The grant money is it's a reimbursement. That's why they put their money up first. And so their money is gonna be used to pay everything off.
Is that $1 million from the original owner, is that in a trust?
We have, it's in their account. It's
We
in,
don't have that money.
they don't want that.
it's not in our account.
No, it's not in our account.
No, it's not in our account. The agreement they have it in an account because it's so much.
But we have no control over that account.
No, but we have a contract with them.
Is it locked up? In other words, they can't take that money?
Well, I'm sure they can. Huh?
They cancel the grants, they can reimburse and get it back. So,
Yeah.
And they can also take off.
Right.
Thank you.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
I don't
And-
think.
And
you're-
we're stuck with the bill. Well, they have to sue, the property owner, but what I'm saying is that,
They're very much aware that they're on the hook for it and they're okay.
I understand that, city manager, but you know, this is not the first time we've had people walk away. And, you know, I'm not saying that's what they're not gonna do, but at the end of the day, I'm saying that they can't walk away with that $1 million. There's not a damn thing we can do about it. And that's the truth.
Well, that's where he gets involved. We'll get our money.
They could sue them, yeah.
Can't squeeze blood out of a drum.
That's in your contract.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is Big Lots is back. That's the only good news out there.
I'll tell you a story about that.
They don't have a lot on their show.
All right, Cherry Street, we have a massive conference call tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock where we should be getting direction from Pico. As soon as I get done with that, I will let y'all all know.
I'm not gonna lose any people to that, city manager. That's what they've been saying for months and months and months and months.
Well, at this point, as I've said before, we went through, we did another evaluation, we moved several structures. Those structures were wrote into the plans, those plans were then sent back to Tico, and Tico's not supposed to be giving us their plan. And it better have a timeline. That's the best I can. No. Wanna go home?
I'm good.
Okay, now we'll go to public participation. Oh, I'm sorry, we'll do the announcements. July 15th, planning board meeting, does it look like that will happen? Okay,
Yes.
so there's a planning board meeting next Wednesday. Historical Society, as Commissioner Briggs said, Thursday evening at the community center at 5:30. And then July 22nd is our next commission meeting. And now we go on to public participation, so yes, sir?
Mark Bosser, 6303 Rolls Road. Unmarked cop cars for speed enforcement, traffic infractions, stuff like that. I understand that there's a people want that because they wanna be able to catch them, because I know from my experience, if I see a marked cop car, even if I'm doing the speed limit, I, check myself. The other part of that is that having them, marked will allow citizens that need one to just flag one down, but everybody always has a phone with them. The one time I needed an officer and I didn't have my phone, thankfully I saw one drive by in a marked car, waved him down, handled the issue. So also, obviously, if there are people doing bad things at Court Park, the deterrent of seeing a marked vehicle is amazing. There's some chatter, that people have been saying that we do have deputies that are, on the payroll for our area, just hanging out in areas that doesn't really do any good, just FYI. Commissioner, if you could educate a lot of us on the East Pass, we don't know what that is, so just a little work on that, we'd be happy.
You agree?
Okay, the East Pass is used to be open, that's where Shell Island is. The new pass from 1933, when it was cut in, it caused the old pass to start filling in with sand. Now it's completely filled in. So everything from the old pass all the way to the end where the water is at the south part of Tyndall Air Force Base is been shut off. So that whole area is now stagnant. So, and if they open that pass up, which they did a few years ago, but there's a state law that prevents jetties from being put in to keep the sand from coming back. Of course, it just closed right up. So they need to put jetties out there, so it won't close back up. So we have a couple problems. One of them is the jetty thing, but we have a Republican governor and so forth, and I think they're more amenable to waiving the jetty rule. So hopefully we get them to do that and open the pass up, then all that'll get flushed out and we won't have any red tide or anything like that developing on the south side of Tyndall Air Force Base.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Now, who else wants to? Mr. Shaner?
Ron Shaner, 5711 Kevin Circle. I keep hearing about these citations, and 86. Well, that's less than 3 a day. I mean, I can take a 30-minute drive and I can see half a dozen or more, dodging in and out of traffic. If they get in there without scraping the paint off your bumper, they're gonna go for it. I mean, it just, weaving in and out of traffic, you see them, there they go. Anyway, I think they could get that 86 down in my neighborhood. If they just come down there, I don't see no law enforcement down there hardly ever unless there's a fight or something going on or some kind of a brawl or something. But anyway, if they can't do something about the stop signs, how about the speed limit? I see them going through them stop signs 45, 50 mile an hour. Got this cute little thing, she really, look sharp going through there about 50. Here a while back, the law officers had some business down there for about 45 minutes. They sat there. We had perfect. There's a stop sign, everybody stops, so it's not a fact that they can't breathe. So, I'd like to see, speeding tickets or something down there. They really drive me to see them just speed through them stop signs. One of them ever hurts a member of my family from running that stop sign, I'll be going to jail for a long time. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shaner. Who else would like to speak? Anybody? Yes, sir?
Tim Bruner, Cherry Street, 6620. This happened this morning on the way out of here when I was leaving from the senior get-together. The gentleman that was mowing the sides of this road as we go out to the highway, he was really working hard, doing a good job, but I'm wondering, is there any possibility that those things could have rear view mirrors put on them? As I was trying to come around him, he was cutting in and out around those trees, and every time he'd get over, I'd start to go around him and he'd jump back out in the middle of the road. And I know it was because he was paying attention to mowing, and he wasn't looking behind him, which is not always is his fault. I mean, but I was just thinking if there was some way that they could get something on those mowers where they can kind of see behind them, it might keep one of them from getting in an accident. I mean, not like I said, I'm not trying to find fault with the guy because he was doing a good job mowing. It's just a safety issue I came up with.
Okay,
Thank you.
Tim heard, so. Anybody else want to speak? Ms. Langston?
Teresa Langston, 6031 Lane Street. So, we need security cameras to stop the vandalism, and you said that it's gonna cost a lot of money. Can we do something with fees? because people wanted these parks, we built these nice parks, and why not have some type of fee for the people who want to use them, because, you know, sometimes it's the same people that are doing the damage, the ones that are down there using it. Not saying it's everybody, but, you know, fee should, you know, help cover the, security cameras. And about Beacon Point. How did we not know that it was for sale? It's a commercial. We just met a couple weeks ago, got an update on Beacon Point, and nothing was mentioned about it being for sale. I don't care who you are, closings do not take, I mean, they take longer than the 2 weeks, you know, since the last meeting. So how did we not know that it was for sale when all of this is going on? And now all of a sudden it's like, well, it's sold, yada, 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 and now we got a whole new set of problems. And then my other thing is the citizens have been complaining since the hurricane about the eyesore. And we have been told, every time somebody complains, that there's nothing that can be done about it. And now we can hire a structural engineer. This is ridiculous. And this is why the citizens don't trust city management, city representatives at all, because we're told one thing for years and now all of a sudden, well, we can do it now. I'm probably just gonna shut up there because Kip will be escorting me out.
Did anybody else want to speak? I don't see anybody. So, no one else wants to speak? Got a second?
I did.
We are adjourned. Thank you all for hanging out with
What's
us
the
tonight.
parcel, the other little part of the business center? In, like, as in, like, inside of it.
Oh.